Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 174 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I am so freaking excited, I can't even hold it in. Here we are in our brand new studio, people. I want to thank all you guys. Without you guys, this would not be possible. I cannot tell you how elated I am that we have our own space. I'm sure Matt would concur on that as well.
Oh, yeah. Although, pour one out for Old Blue.
Yeah.
That couch soldiered through.
It did. It was a good companion for a while, but it is awesome to be here in our new space. Yeah, I've been living here basically for the last week, getting everything set up, getting everything wired, getting the set dressed. I hope you guys like the set, what we've done with it. We're not going to tell you all the people that are on the set. You're going to have to figure it out and rely on camera angles from the show to try to suss out every person that we have here on our set.
I just feel really compelled to talk about sports.
I was talking to Matt about it, and where we're sitting, you can't really tell who these people are. The farther back you get, their faces become clear. On camera, I think it's pretty obvious for you guys.
Yeah, it's better on camera.
Yeah, I think on camera. Yeah, you guys can see who the people are, but where we're sitting is just a bunch of dots. Mm-hmm. But anyway, thank you guys for being patient. That's the other thing I want to bring up right out of the top. Thanks for being patient with us. It has been a long process getting to here. Obviously, once you secure the space, you have to get insurance. You have to jump through a bunch of hoops and do a bunch of paperwork. And that's what I've been up to, getting all this done. So I want to thank all our patrons, all our subscribers, very, very much for being patient during this month. But we are ready to rock. And another reason that we're here right now is because we have an awesome sponsor. And here's a word from them right now. Feeling the urge to get away from it all? Permanently or for months at a time? Immerse yourself in the best Montana has to offer on 320 acres of remote, heavily forested property. Gaze at your own private lake from the deck of the log cabin. Truly off the grid, soak in a custom wood fire heated hot tub surrounded by wilderness and wildlife. Visit www.lostlakemontana.com for more detailed information and images. You can also contact Doug DeShazer today at deshazermt@gmail.com or 406-291-1643. That's deshazermt@gmail.com or 406-291-1643. I've been so stressed out since E3 that I think I'm about to buy that property. I just moved to the woods by a lake. It has been insane. It is so satisfying to be sitting here right now with GameFace happening. We're going to kick things off by talking a little bit about the new studio and how things are going to change going forward. So, having the studio gives us a lot of opportunities to do all kinds of different shows and different types of content. We had launched a bunch of stuff before we lost our studio. One of those shows was Today's High Score, which is a call-in show that we had done for a few weeks before we lost our studio, and it was starting to gain momentum. The show got better every week. We got to the point where we literally had calls wall-to-wall for an hour and a half on the very last episode, and then we lost the studio. So Today's High Score is coming back. Not this weekend, because this weekend I'm actually going on a Sifted Community podcast. Look for that on Saturday or Sunday. So I won't be able to do Today's High Score here in the studio, but week after, it's on. Every Saturday, call-in show. I'll breach the topics. You guys call in and talk about them, and we're going to discuss stuff together. So look for that. The quiz show that I have talked about and dreamed about for a while is coming. Working on the structure for that right now, but it is going to happen. We're going to need you guys to volunteer for that. And there's going to be prizes and things like that. But when the time comes, I'll go into more detail about that. But hopefully you guys are excited about it and you guys will participate. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to get you guys as involved as possible with our content, to feel like you guys have some ownership over it and that you're a part of it. Because to me, you absolutely are. You are a part of Sifted as a community. So let's talk about some technical stuff. This may be boring to some of you. I saw some comments in the chat. First of all, we're going to be engaged with chat a lot more. So We just have everything set up right now. We don't have everything finished yet. So eventually, this PC that's sitting here with me is going to be a real PC. Right now, and I'll spin it around for you guys so you can see, it's our monitor. So this is so Matt and I can see what's actually going on with the show.
Infinity.
Yeah, yeah, you're going to go into infinity. Also, what I should have said off the top of the show is we have a new TriCaster TD. His name is Jared. And he has his own space now. He's right inside that window. Maybe you can see his hand sticking up there.
Yeah, it is not a shower.
Yeah, so so not only did Matt and I get an upgrade, our TriCaster TD also got an upgrade with the new studio. We're really excited about it. It's his first day, so we're going to try to take it easy on him. But eventually you'll probably see him on camera, and he'll be a part of the show like Sam was. We still miss Sam a lot. If you guys are wondering, he stayed in contact with me. He's doing good. He's out in Boston living his life.
Well, which is it?
What?
He's in doing Boston? Good or is he in Boston? Oh, shade.
Touche. So let's talk about, I saw some of you guys saying, why do you guys have mics? First of all, I hope by now you can already see that the audio is way better. Way better than it was before.
Certainly more dependable.
Yeah, so before we used to use lav mics, and a lot of that comes from the type of shows that I have been creating at the various places I worked. They were shows that were either on television or meant to be on television, with the hope that they would eventually be on television. And there's a certain look and a style with those shows, and typically you use lavs. And we got a lot of pushback about the length of the show everywhere, across YouTube especially. People are like, the show's too long. But nobody says Joe Rogan's show is too long. Why is that? It's because when you watch Joe Rogan's show, it looks like a podcast. It doesn't look like a show made for television. And when you look at that, you have certain expectations built in your mind of what you expect from that show. So,
like he's like, these guys are just going to talk forever.
Yeah, I mean, when you see a setup like this, you assume it's a podcast. And I also feel like, well, one, so we're basically creating expectations of what the show is instead of what it's not with the setup now. Audio hits were a big problem for us for a long time. Mm-hmm. Matt and I, when we had the lavs, our shirts would hit it, or we'd breathe, and you get that loud, like, thump, thump, thump. Those are gone. They're
or
never...
the packs, like, had wire connection problems. Like, for the last, like, few months, we had to leave the packs on the ground because keeping them somewhere would make the thing wiggle.
Yeah, we're just having problems with noise. Our audio is going to be awesome. And another way I want to grow the show is as a podcast. I want people to go and subscribe to this show on iTunes. One of the big pushes that we have coming up here is we're going to start distributing the show across a lot of podcasting platforms. And when you do that, the audio needs to be on point. And we can hear ourselves right now. Our audio sounds awesome compared to how it used to sound. So it's a huge upgrade.
Also help with the audio at E3.
It will, absolutely. So it's a huge upgrade in so many ways. I also think it sets the expectations for the show correctly, finally. This is a video game podcast. I think a lot of people, Matt and I both come from the same background where everything we create is supposed to go on TV or look like it's supposed to be on TV. That's not what GameFace is. So I feel like we're better representing the show now.
Faces for radio, folks. Yeah. Here we go.
Exactly. I was getting to that joke, but... But anyway, hopefully you guys like it. It is a little weird at first. I know you guys are used to seeing our faces, and now a little bit of our faces are obscured. You'll get used to it. It'll take a little while, but you'll get used to it. And I think ultimately, those of you guys who just listen to the audio file, you are going to love this change without a doubt. And again, that's something that we really want to push going forward, is getting some momentum as just a podcast and not necessarily a video on its own. So here we are. We're ready to rock with you guys. We've been playing a ton of games. I've been burning the midnight oil with all this stuff, but also finding an hour or two to play games at night pretty much every night. Matt and I have been playing, and we're ready to give you our impressions of the biggest games of the week. And we're going to kick things off with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. This is a Switch exclusive.
Yep.
It's not coming to any other platform for now, maybe ever, because Nintendo published it.
Yeah, I think normally if Nintendo publishes something, you're not going to see it elsewhere. Unless it's like a very small thing or mobile shit, I don't know. But I would not expect to ever see a PS4 version of this.
Yeah, I reached out to Activision for code, stupidly. I didn't realize Nintendo was publishing it. Mm-hmm. And Activision was like, oh no, that's not our game. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh, this game's never going anywhere else. So it is a cooperative 4-player isometric action RPG set in the Marvel universe.
Is
that accurate?
Some form of the Marvel universe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how many characters total are there? There's a lot.
I think it's something like 30-ish around there, like 28, 30. Data mining has found 50 DLC character slots.
Holy moly. So it's going to be like a Marvel versus Capcom type thing.
Minus the Capcom.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying as far as roster size.
There's going to be a lot of, if you can think of them, they're probably in here eventually. I think Cyclops and Colossus are coming at the end of August. And they've got 3 DLCs announced, 3 DLC packs announced, Marvel Knights, Fantastic Four, and X-Men. They've shown a few characters from the Marvel Knights one. I think it's Blade, Moon Knight, couple others, but they said that they were just a few of the characters, and so like we might be getting like 10 characters per pack here or something, and like they got 2 more packs in the future or something. There's going to be some robust post-launch support for this because it is Nintendo, and Nintendo does tend to be pretty good about that. So I would expect to see like Hyrule Warriors level support for this in terms of like going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if the DLC had stages, because I don't think these stages take forever to make.
Exactly. Yeah, they're kind of cut and paste.
A little bit, like the boss battles tend to have like some kind of trick to them, like some kind of like thing. Basically, a trick to them. You can make the things go faster, but you can beat it brute force if you want. I think it's fun. Like I played the X-Men Legends games, and then I tried to play the Ultimate Alliance games. I found the Ultimate Alliance games boring for the most part. They just went on and on and on.
Yeah, they never really connected with me either.
And I never finished 1 or 2. I just sort of got halfway through, and I was like, you know what? I've beaten up enough Hydra guys at a certain point. I like this a lot better. I think the combat feels better. I think everybody feels more like their own character for the most part. Like there are certain types of attacks in general, but
there really aren't any like clones.
No, nobody really. I mean, even the spider people feel very different.
They do. Yeah, and there are multiple because the Into the Spider-Verse is represented very well in the game.
You've got
which I finally saw, by the way, and loved.
Oh, it's great.
Really great.
It's great. And so if you are a Spider-Verse fan, you're going to be happy with this. You've got Spider-Man and Miles and Gwen and Venom. So you can have a full team. You have a full team of 4. You have a full team of spider people. There's even a synergy bonus for that.
Your team construction matters.
Yes.
If you team up characters that are typically teamed up in the movies and comics, you get bonuses for those team compositions.
You get a bunch of team bonus for in terms of that, and then the more important synergy, because the way it works is so you've got your basic attacks, you got a light attack and a heavy attack. The heavy attack mostly combos into the end of the light combo if you want to. There's both buttons do the same thing in the air for some reason. Air attacks can be very useful early on depending on who your character is.
They can be very useful throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah, I mean
if you have a character that can fly, it's a huge advantage.
Although the thing about when you can fly, it drains your ability meter.
It does.
I didn't notice that until like late in the game.
It's still though. It's invaluable, especially when you get, because a lot of this game is we're going to plop you down in this restrictive area and then we're going to flood it with enemies.
Yeah.
And if you can fly, when those areas are flooded with enemies and there are just attacks coming from all directions, you can just hop up and fly around it, find an empty space on the battlefield, and drop back down.
Well, that's my right now. Actually, you're seeing one of my favorite inclusions, which is Elsa Bloodworth or Bloodstone. Who
obscure,
is very obscure, like Marvel Knights, sort of the same corner of the universe as Blade and Mephisto and Ghost Rider and those guys. Like putting her in was a surprise. I don't think she's actually very good as a character. All the range characters in this are a little too fragile, in my opinion.
Well, my main, you can see who my main is.
Scarlet Witch?
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch is really good.
I haven't had many problems. I mean, obviously, she's up close, she's a liability, but...
No, but she's a tornado from back. In fact, she was on my team permanently until I got Storm.
Oh, I haven't even got Storm yet.
Storm has this ice, like this area of effect ice attack that basically like freezes everyone. It's just like, just stand still while I beat you with Captain Marvel. That's basically my strategy now.
That's crazy, because a big mechanic in this game is staggering enemies. Mm-hmm. Particularly some of the bosses and the tougher enemies, they have that meter. They have 2 meters. They have a health meter. They have a health meter and a stagger meter. And when you chip them down and that stagger meter goes down, they get staggered, and that's when you just unload. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could see where Storm having that ability kind of cheats it a bit.
Yeah, my main character I play as mostly is Captain Marvel, because, as you say, so you also, in addition to the normals, you have abilities, which are sort of like, you use up your blue meter to do whatever abilities. Captain Marvel has a photon punch, which is like a dash punch, and it does huge stagger damage. So early on, I gravitated to her because she could take the stagger meter down in like 2 punches.
Oh wow!
And then her aerial attack is this ground slam, which does really good damage. So basically and then you've got synergies where you hold the top right button to hold it and press the space button to do abilities. You hold the right trigger and you do team up abilities.
Yeah.
And the team up abilities are synergies with the elemental types of if you have a laser projectile, like you can maybe do a synergy with like a slam attack or something, and you'll do like extra damage and get a big pop, and it'll so basically that's
also how you open doors
sometimes
to secret items.
I have run into a lot of bugs with that.
Oh really?
Because like what you're supposed to do is like you go up to the secret doors and it shows you like the two icons.
Yeah.
And then if you hold the trigger, you'll see like any character you have that you hold the trigger on, you'll see it'll flash like a special flash saying like, hey, you have this. They have the thing you need for this. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Because part of the trick is you have to hit it with the first ability first.
Yeah.
And then the second one. And sometimes the way the automatic activation works, that's just not how it happens. So sometimes you have to go and manually do the first ability and then quickly switch to the other character and hit it with the second ability, which is not the end of the world, but it is not how the game tells you those work.
No, it's right. It's true.
There's a lot of weird like the game gets like messier as it goes on. Like I'm in chapter 8 right now. There's 10 chapters total. At this point, there are like every time it does like a cutscene, there's missing sound effects.
Oh, really?
There's like clearly like there's like battle scenes. It's in the chapter 8's in Wakanda, and like there's a lot of fighting and big battle scenes, and like people are getting blown off like roofs, and like things are being like exploding, and like there's no sound effect for it. There's just nothing. Like the voices are going, the terrible music is playing that doesn't have any response, reaction, or relevance to what's happening on screen ever. Like the music is real generic in this. I'm actually a little shocked that a Nintendo published game has
so many problems. That's very rare. Yeah. Nintendo's games generally have very little, if any, bugs.
I'm sure it will like get better as it goes on. But in general, I do like it. I think is an improvement over what came before. The roster's crazy.
I'm having a lot of fun. I am pleasantly surprised by how much I like this game.
It's not a pushover. Like there's some challenging stuff in it.
Yeah, like there was one boss that I fought that with my team composition that I had been rolling with for a good hour and a half. I was just walking through the game, and I got to this choke point of a boss. And I fought it with that same team, and I could not beat it. Like, I literally got the boss down to, like, the same pixels of health left 5 times in a row. I was like, all right. I went back to the shield point. And the shield points are basically checkpoints in this game, but they're more than that. You can basically go in and fiddle with your team and upgrade things mid-mission. And so I went back. I changed my team to characters who were much lower leveled than the characters I was using, and because I just chose the right characters, I beat it first try. So team composition's very important in this, and then you start getting into like all the stones that you can attach to your characters, and then eventually you get the ability to start upgrading those. Like the rabbit hole goes pretty deep in this game. It's certainly deeper than it looks. It's like, what's the saying? Shallow waters run deep. It doesn't look like a raging river, but the more you start digging into it, the more you realize that there's a lot of flexibility in how you can build your team, how you can approach each character that's on your team. And like you said, the challenge is pretty much perfect. You get through sections where you just kind of destroy, which feels good. Then you hit some bumps in the road where you kind of got to I don't know, recalibrate a little bit, maybe mix up your team, but most importantly, probably mix up your strategy and how you're approaching it, or maybe let the computer control the character that you've been controlling yourself and take control of another character, because maybe Thor is better for you to control in this particular fight. I have been pleasantly surprised by this game.
You weren't impressed at first.
I wasn't at all, no. And when they sent me the code, I was like, oh, I'm so busy right now, maybe I'll get around to it. And I got home late that night and started playing it, and I got hooked. And I kind of just started the last 5 nights in a row. I'm just spending an hour, 2 hours playing it. And I just finished chapter 6, so I'm just a little bit past halfway. But I can absolutely see myself pushing forward and finishing this game, provided something else doesn't come along that starts taking up my time.
There's a couple things in it that I think are a little odd. I think you can get stun locked way too easy. If you get hit by anything, you sort of you tend to get interrupted, which certain characters that feel that doesn't make any sense. Like you should not be able to interrupt Captain Marvel's wind up for some kind of powered ability, especially if you're going to drain my ability meter anyway.
Yeah.
And there's points where there's certain enemies that do kind of these area of effect things where you just get stuck in them and you can't do it. The only thing you can do is dodge out of it.
Yeah.
And if you try to do anything else, you'll sit there and keep getting hit, and your life can go down real fast in this game.
You can take. There are some battles where you take just a couple hits and you're done.
And I think there's a couple characters that have healing abilities. They're not common, but Scarlet Witch can do it. I think Doctor Strange gets one.
It's so weak, though.
They're completely underpowered.
Pointless. It's like you can stand there in that fulcrum
because Scarlet Witch is like a field she creates that heals you slowly, but it's it heals you so weakly that there's no way it's worth risking staying in one place that long to heal 100-something damage. It's not worth it.
I don't use it.
So they should.
She's my main, and I never use it.
So I think there needs to be a little balancing redone.
I agree, because that's not just that either. Her other, for instance,
even when you upgrade it to maximum, it's not particularly useful.
I mean, I would say not a lot. I would say several characters are pretty worthless. And I would say within each character, there's at least one ability or attack that you'll never use.
Mm-hmm. Except as a synergy.
Right.
Really.
Unless you have to.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the big team-up finishers?
Oh, the extreme stuff? No.
So if you look, and I know we're not showing it right now, but each character has 3 bars around their icon, and the center one is gold. Jared, actually, if you take down that graphic just for a second so they can see that bar in the lower left, that would be awesome. Sweet. You can't actually see the gold bar right now, but there it is, just flashing up. So that gold bar, when it's full, you can pull off basically your finisher. And if the other people on your team are also at that point, you can link together all their finishers into one crazy, devastating attack.
Sometimes.
Mine have been mind-searing, the ones that I've seen.
Some of the extremes are good, some of them are not.
Oh, really?
It's interesting. It's a testament to how well the game is designed from a macro level that there aren't really any non-viable characters. If you like a character, you can put them in your team and you can use them and you will get through it. It's fine.
It can be tough with some of them,
depending on the situation. But in general, I didn't have to start changing team members out specifically to deal with situations until probably chapter 6. Until then, I just used whoever I wanted, and so even though I'd say Star-Lord is pretty much a useless character. if you want to play as Star-Lord, you absolutely can. There's no bad choices. They're just better choices.
Yeah.
Which is how it should be, because there definitely were literally non-viable characters in the old games.
I would say this too. It's not like they have buffed the more popular characters.
No.
I could see that being a tactic where they're like, wait a minute, everyone wants to play as Iron Man, Thor, Spider-Man, so let's make them more powerful to give the people what they want.
Well, I would actually say Spider-Man is probably the best character in the game.
He is. And actually, the other characters from the Spider-Verse, I almost always...
The Spider-Verse are all good. Miles is amazing.
I almost always have one of them on my party.
I had Miles on my party for most of the game because he has that electric web ability that just wrecks. In fact, now thinking about it, I should put him on the same team with Storm, because that plus the Ice Storm thing would just end stuff. That's a good idea. I'm going to do that when I get home. Yeah, so there's no one in there. I say Star-Lord is not great because I have not been impressed with his damage, and I don't think he's fun to play. But if you like Star-Lord, I'm sure you can play him just fine.
Oh, we didn't talk about the plot.
Well,
Should we?
for something called the Black Order, there's not a lot of the Black Order.
There's really not. They don't even show up until chapter 6.
Like, you think
they talk about them.
Well, Proxima Midnight
the
shows
bit players
up pretty early.
do, yeah.
But, like, if you're expecting this to be like a running battle against Thanos, it isn't.
No.
Like,
you don't see Thanos until the end of
it is
chapter
like
6.
the other games. It is a kind of a guided tour of what Marvel thinks is popular right now. And a couple things they want you to like and are going to show you whether you like it or not. The Inhumans.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, the Inhumans, even before that terrible TV show, have always been dime store X-Men.
Oh, for sure.
And thankfully, the Inhumans chapter on this is like super short.
Yeah.
Like someone knew. Someone knew we didn't want to spend a lot of time in Adelan.
Yeah.
But the X-Men chapter is pretty short too, which makes me wonder if like that's because they're reserving some stuff for the X-Men DLC. Also, Adelan, I would bet.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just kind of one battle, really.
Yeah, I would bet that Adelan is also related to the Fantastic Four DLC, so maybe there'd be more Adelan in that. Joy. So like, I don't know, we'll see. But gotta watch the hand gestures hitting the mic.
It's gonna be a learning curve for us two people.
But yeah, the black, basically, like
you're just collecting the stones again.
Yeah, you're collecting stones. It's the usual Infinity Stone
Yeah.
rush. And in this one, the Guardians of the Galaxy find a derelict Kree ship, and they find Ronan and Nebula on it. And it turns out they're trying to defend. They've got all the Infinity Stones on the ship because that's smart. And they're trying to stop the Black Order from getting the stones for Thanos. And they fail because you interfere, and Star-Lord uses the stones to like teleport them to Earth, and the stones get scattered across the planet, and naturally a bunch of Marvel supervillains pick up the individual stones and cause problems, so you have to go beat like the best of the, a who's who of Marvel supervillains and get the stones back. And
it is interesting seeing like Green Goblin
yeah.
kind of getting mixed in with the Infinity Stone thing.
Yeah, there's some characters in here you might not expect to see.
Yeah.
There's some fun inclusions.
For sure. Yeah. There you can see the roster. And I don't have everyone unlocked yet.
Yeah, the roster's pretty
gigantic.
I mean, you're close.
Yeah.
You get all but 4 from the story, and then there's 4 bonus characters that are unlocked through this, which is the Infinity Challenges.
Yeah, so those are basically arena combat levels. They're hard.
Yeah.
To me, they're the most difficult part of the game. But you get huge rewards for it.
Yeah, and they also are a good way to level up if you feel
Yeah.
like you're not hacking your way through the story properly, or you can just take if you have characters that are under-leveled that you want to start using, you can take them in Infinity and level them up that way. But you also pick up these cosmic like experience stones that you can like just automatically like auto-level them really fast. Like you just use them up and get experience automatically.
The buff trees in this game are insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of upgrade potential.
They just keep going and go. It's like they're hexagons that are filled with like 30 options, and you think that first hexagon you get is the only one, and then
but there's another hexagon after every point of the original.
Of every you can upgrade your character so much.
Yeah,
and
the level cap is 100. I believe.
Yeah, and I'm like level 23.
Yeah, the Infinity thing. I have 3 stars on everything in the first rift thing. And then like
here now these are the upgrade trees. Look at this, people. It's insane. It just goes on and on.
Yeah, you are. They are prepared for you to play this game over and over and over and over. I think there's 2 difficulty unlocks after you complete the game. Like they're not messing around. They're trying to make this a long-lived game.
I would argue too that you spend so little time in most locations that playing this again isn't like a lot of games. Maybe that's the copy and paste aesthetic coming through because there's not a lot of sort of memorable definitive locations in the game. There's like 1 or 2 per chapter.
I mean, it's a dungeon crawl. The main difference is who you're fighting. I found fighting these guys really annoying.
Yeah.
This is actually my least favorite level in the whole game.
This was the worst level that I played. It's the last one I played.
Yeah, it's the Dark Dimension, so there's a lot of Dormammu in this, but it's the first level that really plays with doing weird stuff to like this boss is immune to this thing, so you have to do this like thing and throw this rock at him, and so it's not very. I don't think it's very well explained, and so like for a game that like otherwise it's kind of just about like hitting things until they fall over. Like suddenly you have to like do stuff. And it's like, well, that's out of character. Like, but there's little things like that. Like there's like a trick to beating the sentinels quickly that like you can that works that way. There's a lot of stuff in the game that like if you want to finesse it and you'll get it done faster, or like or you can with a bigger boom, or you can chip them to death. But I think this is the first chapter that doesn't let you chip things to death, because there's a certain point at which basically in a lot of the situations where you have to do the special thing, the enemies will stop dropping health power-ups.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you don't get it done by then, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And there's no penalty for dying. I mean,
I've died a lot.
They don't even make you like go back to the last shield point if you don't want. Like, you can if you want to rejigger stuff and like
they'll just let you start at the battle. Yeah.
And sort of like upgrade some stuff, whatever. But if you want to keep all the experience you've gotten in the boss fight so far, you can just hit retry and you start with everything you've got. You don't lose anything. You just get to try again.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I mean, it also kind of fits with sort of the bite-sized, you're not always going to have time to finish what you're doing in this game because it's supposed to be played handheld. I think in that sense, being on the Switch helped it a lot because it became less tedious. Like, they save constantly, so you never really end up, you'd have to work to end up in a situation where you'd lose progress.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a game here in a little bit where that is not the case. So it's nice whenever, and you're right, a handheld game needs to have that functionality. Otherwise, it's never going to work in that space.
The only issue I have with that is that, because obviously I play it docked, all the UI and all the text is real big
when you play it on a TV.
It's like, I mean, you can see here how huge the mini map is. And like all that. It's a little much, like right there, the objective thing. Yeah, it's gigantic on a television. Yeah, it's exactly the size it should be for a handheld screen. But on a TV, it's like, whoa.
I mean, that's something developers have to.
I mean, it's better than when like they put text on and people complain they can't read it.
Yeah. I mean, this is the better alternative, I believe. Yeah. But I think Team Ninja has done a great job on this game.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it's I haven't really had any bugs. There's some camera problems. I think actually this section shows off.
Camera issues all over the place.
Yeah.
I played a little bit.
I think you'll see it right up. Watch, you'll start seeing it jitter here in a little bit. Yeah, so it gets caught behind objects and obscures your view sometimes. It gets jittery at times.
Yeah, I played a little bit of online.
I played some yesterday.
It's fine.
It works good. Yeah, there's no lag, unlike Super Mario Maker 2.
And
but you keep your progress when you play with someone else.
Yeah, you're never wasting your time.
Yep.
Even when you fail, you get to keep your progress. I like that, especially for a game that you're supposed to play in bites on the go. And basically, if you like these games, there's no reason not to buy this.
Yeah.
If you have a Switch.
Yep. Especially those of you who have a Switch and maybe you're like me and you're not a gigantic fan of Super Mario Maker 2. Another thing to consider as well is that Fire Emblem comes out tomorrow.
Yes.
So think about that before you decide to plunk down your money on this. But
I mean, they're two very different games.
They are. But some people can only buy one game a month or one every 2 months or whatever.
So basically, you're going to have to, do you want strategy or do you want action?
Yeah.
So
this is a good option, though. I would not regret paying full price for this game at all.
No, I don't.
I've had a ton of fun with it. I had fun with co-op. I've had fun just switching through characters and just playing a character for a stage or two just to see what it's like to play as them. And you're right. You can succeed with any character, but certain ones I think are easier to use and be successful with.
I mean, if you're more of if the characters you love aren't in the roster yet, like if you're more of an X-Men, there are a fair number of X-Men in the base game.
Oh yeah.
But like the other strategy is to wait until there's more of a definitive edition out with everything in it. Like I'm sure that'll be along next year. So that's an option if you're not keen on buying a season pass or something. But either way, I think if you're at all interested in Marvel, you should get to this.
I think it's pretty respectful too of Marvel.
I think so. Like
there's no egregious examples where I'm like, that's not really nailing it.
No, I mean I think they get. I mean you still got the Ultimate Alliance issue where like you're playing as a well-known Marvel character, and there's points at which it's like they've never met each other before, and it's like, well, I mean, I'm pretty.
It doesn't address every movie, comic.
I'm pretty sure Scarlet Witch knows who the Inhumans are since her brother was married to one, but okay, sure.
Yeah.
But it's just little things to let the players know who these characters are. And it's nice to see the X-Men and then eventually the Fantastic Four stuff back in Marvel games, because those were gone for a long time, and now they don't have to be, because Fox got Fox got bought up, and they've got the license back, and Ike Perlmutter doesn't have to be petty about it anymore.
Yeah.
So the gang's all back. And the only other thing I would say is I am not tremendously impressed with some of the voice work. Some of the voices are fine.
Hit and miss.
A lot of the voices are the people who have done the voices in Marvel cartoons for years and years. Mm-hmm. Some of the characters who have not been in Marvel cartoons are a little shakier, but it's fine. It's
there's a couple really bad characters, but for the most part, it's good.
Yeah, Ghost Rider. They do Ghost Rider really well.
They do. There's a lot of voice acting, a lot of cinematics,
like more than the previous games, I would say.
Yeah. They're all pre-rendered, though. Like, the real-time stuff resorts to, like, text bubbles and...
Yeah, although those are voiced.
They are, yeah.
The other character... The character you're talking to is always voiced.
Yeah.
Yeah, production value is decent.
Yeah, it's a Switch game, so I give it a little bit of a pass on some stuff. But you're right. There are moments where the game does not look great. But there are some moments where it does, like when you do like the team up attacks, like the crazy supers where you link with each other, like those attacks, like
team up attacks are good. Although there's a couple places, usually when the camera gets hung up, there's been places where it hitches hard.
Yeah,
it's a little much for the hardware at times.
Yeah, I've had frame rate dips pretty consistently. Sometimes at the weirdest places too, where it's just your team running to a vista or whatever.
Yeah, clearly
it's just having to draw a lot.
Some of the streaming loading is. I mean, this game has a lot of load time for a cartridge.
It does.
Like
I don't know if I've ever seen a cart take that long to load.
There's a lot happening there.
Yeah, for sure. But overall, both of us recommend it as a full purchase.
I would say so. I mean, if you're at all interested, I mean, if you don't like this kind of game, it's not going to change your mind. But if you dug Ultimate Alliance, I would say buy with confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you liked Ultimate Alliance, you're going to love this game.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like Ultimate Alliance.
I didn't either.
But I like this a lot.
Me too. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
It's better.
It's a better game by far. And leave it to Team Ninja to somehow deliver that. I mean, it has been.
I mean, it's a very unusual. Like Team Ninja made it, and Nintendo basically brute forced it back from the dead. I mean, this game wouldn't exist without them.
Yeah,
and I think they came up with pretty much a winner.
It was a smart move, absolutely.
And it's the only game in town if you want some Marvel action this year.
Yeah, how crazy is that this is
this is the closest thing you're going to get to an Avengers game. So
it absolutely is. So there you go. That's Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and it is.
Oh, and did you see the leaks on the skins for the Square Avengers game?
No.
Like there's some skins that were shown at the Comic-Con panel, and people took pictures even though they're not supposed to. But it's like Cap's classic outfit. There's a skin for Cap that's Falcon as Captain America. Like, they're doing the Marvel Heroes thing. You're going to be able to customize these characters' looks very much so. So you're not going to be stuck with all those weird faces.
Well, it's
like I said.
It is a gas. So
yes, it is. That is how they get you.
They have to find some way to sustain that over the long haul.
Still not showing the gameplay, huh?
They're supposed to release it after Comic-Con. Did you see that?
It leaked,
yeah. It's on Sifted, actually, if you want to watch.
People didn't seem to hate it.
No?
Like, people were like, yeah, it's fine.
Well, I think part of the problem was that it had been beaten up so much. Yeah. I think we talked about that, like, post E3. We were like, look, this game isn't as bad as people are making it out to be.
It's just underwhelming if you're expecting something as awesome as what's in the movies, and it's the tutorial stage, so no one's fighting as a team. There's no it's just like
it just feels uninspired.
Yeah. And like really, I cannot emphasize how long the fight with Taskmaster goes. Like it really just does not stop at a certain. It's a 20-minute demo, and that's like a third of it.
Yeah, but anyway, there's that cell phone footage is on Sifted. Just go to the search engine, search for Marvel's Avengers, and it's probably the top result on the game page now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a thing where people were hoping it would be like, yeah, and instead it's like, oh,
okay. Like, they didn't take it down.
No,
that video is still. I looked today. That video is still up.
Probably because everybody's just like, "Oh, that's not terrible."
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh, they don't hate us."
They're putting out a direct feed version of it after Gamescom.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's time for them to start showing some confidence in it.
Yep, Gamescom's coming up,
especially if they intend to not redo any of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, absolutely.
But in the meantime, Ultimate Alliance.
It's a good alternative, absolutely. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Gears 5, not Gears of War 5. Gears 5.
Yeah, it's just Gears now.
How do you feel about that?
I don't care.
I know you don't care, but
It's
do you
just-
think it was smart from a financial perspective?
Yeah, it's what everybody calls it.
It's
And,
weird, in our database, it's weird to see Gears of War, Gears of War, Gears of War, Gears of War, Gears. You don't think people still who are just randomly interested aren't going to search for Gears of War?
I'm sure it'll still come up.
Maybe?
Yeah, of course it will. It's maybe not. I don't know if it will come up in your database, but if you Google Gears of War 5, this is what comes up.
Yeah.
Because even if people are calling it that, it'll still get into the search engine optimization.
Yeah.
I think it's fine just because people call it Gears anyway, and I think especially with the return of God of War, you don't own that GOW acronym anymore.
Nope.
So just make it
sure.
Gears.
Yeah.
It's fast, it's short, it's sweet. Gears 5, done. Cool.
Yep. So last weekend was the Gears 5 tech test, and it was open to people who have Xbox Game Pass. Interestingly, there was no other way to get it. I contacted Microsoft looking for a beta code, and they said there are no beta codes. They're like, you have to have Game Pass. And so they sent me...
There is no Dana, only Zool.
Yeah. And so they sent me a code for Game Pass so that I could play it instead of sending me a beta code. I found that to be pretty interesting. I think it shows you also, how big of a deal Game Pass is to Xbox. Even among the press, they want to push you to that instead of just going in and putting a code. But anyway, I got into the beta. It starts again tomorrow morning and runs all weekend again. I'm not 100% sure if they're going to have new modes or maps, but last weekend there were 3 modes and 2 maps to play them on. And I think I might be done with Gears of War. It's I guess the first thing I would say is if you're a big Gears of War fan and you're worried that the game is going to be drastically changed for Gears 5.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. You're good.
It's Gears.
You're good.
I didn't play this. I played the escape mode at E3.
Oh, okay.
Which, it's Gears.
Yeah, it is just Gears. That to me, and I know fans are probably happy about that, that to me is the biggest disappointment with the game, is that it's just... The multiplayer, anyway, is just another Gears game. So they have these new modes, like the arcade mode, which is basically just like the gun mode from Call of Duty, where you get a gun, you get a kill with it, you get another gun. Although you get a gun every 2 kills, I believe, in this. They're trying to market it as this new innovative mode, but it's been in other shooters for a long time at this point. So to me, that wasn't unique. It may be unique to Gears players, people who only play Gears. And I would say that there is an audience for Gears of people who don't play other shooters and just play Gears.
Yeah, because it is different.
It is different. And I think the things that make it different, that make those people like it, are the things that were turning me off to it playing this tech test. So the roadie run. Iconic. One of the defining traits of Gears of War, without a doubt. But I don't like it anymore. In fact, I hate it. And it's stupid. There's no reason for the roadie run. There's just not. Nobody's going to run like that.
Yeah, well... It's also I've been replaying the Gears games in kind of preparation for this because I'm mainly into this for the campaign.
Yeah, honestly, after playing this tech test, so am I.
And I've been playing the Gears games. I've been playing. I'm about halfway through 2, and one of the things that keeps striking me is Gears of War is 13 years old.
Yeah.
And it's starting to show.
Yeah, it is.
There's some stuff in that game where you're like, what do you want me to... Oh, okay, what, really? That's how that works? Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And 2 still has a little bit of it. It's not jank. It's not like the game is broken, but it's just that there's a language that has developed since then about how games sort of work that these games don't have, and some people might prefer that. But the roadie run is part of it, where it's just let me move around the environment properly.
It's so stupid.
It's so
having to account
awkward.
for that wide arc of a turn while you're trying to sprint. It's okay, if you want to have the roadie run in there, leave it in there. Just give me a sprint.
Yeah.
Let's have both.
Well, that's why I keep wondering about the campaign in this is they talk about how there's going to be open world or it's going to have open areas. Am I supposed to roadie run
I know.
For miles?
Think
or
about it.
Is there going to be another way to get around?
Well, there are those crazy airship things.
Right.
Remember?
But like, you gotta give her like a normal movement scheme or something if you're gonna do that. Because like, I mean, the old Gears games and 4 for the most part, even though they loosened it up a little bit, really feel like they're on kind of a grid.
Yeah.
In terms of the way you're moving around.
Yep,
like,
for sure.
Like certainly, like you are kind of limited to these cardinal directions, the 8-way move sort of thing. Especially when you're talking about the diving and the running. You just feel really restricted, and like the fact that you can't hop over something in the early games unless you go up against it, hit the button, and they smooth that out in Gears 4. But and I'm sure they did further in 5. But like I'm like they're gonna have to take the smoothing to a degree at some point that might make it feel not like itself anymore. And I'm very curious. I wonder if that's why they're holding back the campaign till last for the big media blowout. Because that's the thing I'm most curious about. Because it feels like you'd have to make some changes to make an open world or open area game design work with this sort of gameplay. Like
you're absolutely right.
It's probably good for them that I'm interested in that. I mean, that's definitely what I'm paying attention to. But it also means that when you're just sort of showing me this multiplayer that still works the same way it always has, good for the fans of this thing. But as someone who's like more interested in like how this thing's moving forward to me is not like we stole a mode from Call of Duty. So it's basically been to me like there's been no Gears news for like 2 months.
Chainsaw Bayonet, I'm still cool with.
Sure.
Because they have kind of managed to find a way to balance that within the context of multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, the real problem is still the shotgun maniacs.
Yeah, the shotgun roll.
Yeah.
And they're still...
I mean, I think at this point they consider that part of the game.
I think it is, yeah. I think it's just a part of it now.
Deal with it?
You'd have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think they actually tune it.
Yeah.
It's like they just put out the first raw multiplayer footage of Modern Warfare last week, and they showed quick scoping in the raw footage. And so when you do that, you're basically saying, this is a part of the game now. This is something that we know is a part of the game. Hopefully you assume that they're trying to balance it and make it work for everyone. But you're right. It's pretty interesting when people find almost like exploits in a game and it becomes so prevalent that it just becomes a part of the game.
I mean, you never remember combos in Street Fighter 2 were a glitch.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy to think about.
I remember because I was in the arcades at the time. I was working at an arcade when that came out, and early on when people would do combos and stuff, like you'd get like people angry because they thought they were cheating.
Yeah,
like you're not letting me hit back, and it's just like, well, yeah, that's the point. It's a combo, and like you'd get fist fights that would break out at the place I worked because like they're like you're not letting me. You're just like hitting me over and over again, and it's just like it was.
Yeah, that's how fights work.
People didn't understand kind of how that was going to be a thing. So so it's kind of the same thing with like there's the shotgun thing. It's like people, if that's just how the game works, that's how the game works, and even if it wasn't intended originally, that's kind of one of the hallmarks of the game. So that's just how it's going to be. And I'm not a huge fan of that, but
I hate the shotgun roll.
So do I, but I'm not.
And it's so absurd because you get in some matches where you just stand back and just watch people roll around each other for like 10 minutes. It's like, what is this?
It's not for me, but if you like it, then at least you've got this.
It is certainly effective.
It's not like it's infested the whole industry or anything. It's funny to me how so little of Gears of War
has carried over.
No one takes their mechanic, and even stuff that I think would have been like
active reload.
I remember saying to Cliff when it came out, like, man, active reload is going to be the thing that everybody steals. He's like, oh yeah, I know. And like I remember like a year or 2 years ago, I saw him at E3. I'm like, you remember when I said like I thought what happened to that? He's like, I don't know why people don't take it. I think it's great. I'm like, of course you think it's great.
I actually just played a game last week that had active reload.
Yeah, I did just play something
with
active reload.
What was it? I can't remember though.
I can't remember. It was recent. Somebody actually did one. I'm like, oh, you stole active reload. That's good.
Yeah.
What was it? Vincent says Attack on Titan 2 had it, but that wasn't. I haven't played that, so that wasn't it. Oh,
you know what?
Earth Defense Force Iron Rain.
Yeah. You know why I thought that I played a game is because Vincent mentioned it in his game eval, and I edited the game eval, and that's where it's coming from. So yeah, that was another game that had active reload.
So Japanese B-list.
Yeah.
like shoot 'em ups seem to be
the only ones that are adopting it
13 years later.
Yeah, it's very bizarre, but that is a great mechanic. I love it. It adds tension.
I mean, obviously,
and rewards you for it.
And cover obviously is used by everybody, but that even Cliff will admit that he stole that.
Well, he took that
from Killzone, Kill Switch.
Kill.Switch, Winback.
And Winback was before that.
Yeah, there's a couple games that did it first. A couple other notes I have on it. The game is really buggy, like really buggy.
Is it an alpha or a beta?
They don't say. They call it the tech test.
Okay.
It's not like alpha or beta. It is a mess right now. If you try to change characters after you die, it just basically crashes. I've got in these weird infinite loops where it's trying to load the team into a game, and like the characters will just keep loading into the game over and over. I've had the game crash a couple times. Again, this is a beta or an alpha, whatever they want to call it, so some of that stuff's to be expected, but I play a lot of betas and alphas, and they're usually not this bad. That is a shock to me that the Coalition would put out something like this in the state that it's in. That's just not typical of them, and when you think about the fact that it's coming out pretty soon, it's a little concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll get there. God knows how old this build is.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is like 3 or 4 months old.
I mean, if it's a tech test explicitly, then they just want to make sure everything connects and why it doesn't connect and what's going on. So
there were queues.
Wow.
Queues. And I'll say this, it was only the first day that the tech test was going on, but we were put in queues where you had to wait to play the game.
You know what I had to do queues for recently? Final Fantasy 14.
Really?
I decided to jump in on that because everybody's
that new expansion
about
is
Stormbringer,
like, yeah,
and like or Shadowbringer.
Shadowbringer, yeah.
What the hell is Stormbringer?
I'm sure there's another game with
Stormbringer.
Definitely is. Yeah.
But I couldn't create any characters for 3 days because all the North American servers were congested, and they won't let you create new characters. So I had to wait until like 2 a.m. and when people stopped playing until I could get, like, one of them got uncongested enough to create a character, and like I had to wait in a line of like 10,000 people. Like, that game is doing real well because of that expansion, so good on them. But wow, it was hard to like get in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it's good that there's that much interest in Gears for the beta. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's free, but like, if you get that kind of, interest, or maybe they're doing it on purpose. I don't know if they're congesting stuff just to test that system out. We don't know.
I mean, my guess is the system is going to be in place, and yeah, they're intentionally keeping people out of service to make sure that it works if they need it. That's my guess.
Yeah, for that first week.
Yeah, it is a tech test, so I could see why they might experiment.
I mean, really, the point of a tech test is not so you have fun.
It's really not.
It's not here for us.
And if that's their goal, mission accomplished. They knocked it out of the park, because I will admit I had very little fun playing this. The aiming in this game, I play a lot of shooters, a lot. The aiming in this game feels so squirrely to me. I started going in, and I never do this. I was going in and messing with like the stick sensitivity, trying to get it. I could not find a good place. When people run into the room with me, it's so absurd. They're standing 5 feet away from me, and I cannot shoot them. I'm going right, left, up. Like, I cannot.
Well, I've noticed, I mean, I haven't played this, but I've noticed playing the old games, like, when I go into the aim mode, when I go, pull the left trigger and go to aim, that reticle is never where I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's weird. And then, like,
you're supposed to be in the center of the screen.
You'd think, but,
that's
like,
typically
it
where
never
reticles are.
ends up there, or I'm off-center looking at things, like, for whatever reason. The Gears games seem to have a much harder time sort of, quote-unquote, reading my mind in terms of what I'm looking at than almost any other shooter I've played.
It could be, too, that they have the aim assist cranked way down, or there just isn't one. But I've had a terrible time trying to shoot. I mean, when there's someone standing 5 feet away and you can't shoot them, like, it's pretty frustrating.
That's Gears.
Now, obviously, you're seeing Jack Frags.
Unless you have a shotgun.
Yeah, now you're seeing there's a glitch. You're seeing Jack Frags play right now, thanks to him for this footage. I was unable to capture, because I had capture equipment here while I was playing it, so thanks to Jack Frags for this footage. But obviously, he's not having a problem with the aiming. So I think his last round, he finished 22-4. So my guess is if I spend more time with it, and I am going to play it a little bit more this weekend in the second round, and my guess is if I play more of it, I'll come around and I'll be able to aim pretty well. I'm just saying, at first blush, I wasn't able to hit anything. and I play a lot of shooters still.
Like you
I
said,
still
this
play
is
Black Ops 4.
This is a different beast.
It
in a
is,
lot of ways.
absolutely. There was one cool thing, I will say this, and I always try to find a positive if I'm not really enjoying something, and this is what I found from Gears 5 that I really liked, was when you play...
Spinny legs.
When you play domination in this game, if you are the MVP of a round, between rounds, you get to choose where the items spawn, which can be a huge advantage for you, because you can put what you want right next to where the spawn is, and for your team in general. You can just hook up your team to make sure the weapons that you want them to grab first are closest to the team. And that is something that I've never seen in a shooter before. So maybe as I play more and discover more, I'll find more stuff that's unique and different. Based upon what I played last weekend, though, there was not a whole lot. And again, it was 2 maps, 3 modes, so I didn't get a good cross-section of the game. But like you, I'm really hoping that the campaign delivers. Because I just feel like my love for Gears multiplayer is not what it used to be.
No, like I'll probably play a little bit to see what it is, and then I'll play some Horde mode because I do like Horde mode.
Yeah.
Then I get tired of not getting any further than that in Horde mode because the people I play with are terrible, and because they're all randos, and then I'll go back to the campaign, and then I'll never play it again.
Yeah.
So that's basically my Gears cycle.
For better or worse, it's Gears.
Yeah.
Some people are going to love that. Some people who have maybe waned in their interest in the franchise are not going to like that.
Yeah,
I'm on the latter team, so.
I mean, it's kind of like the thing with Microsoft's library right now. It's like, I'm not saying you need to change Gears till it's unrecognizable, but we're just saying you probably need more than just Gears.
Yeah.
Because if you love Gears, you love Gears. But if you don't love Gears, I don't think Gears is going to change your mind.
And I think we've also seen that audience has dwindled over the last 6 or 7 years.
It's still very healthy multiplayer-wise, Gears 4. Like and there's still the competitive scene is still there. It's still working out. Meanwhile, Evil Geniuses shut down their Call of Duty team, which is weird, which is crazy because like they were the winners last year.
Yeah, they won in 2018 and
we're done.
Quit.
Yeah.
I was talking to Jared, actually, when he got here a little early so we could talk and kind of go over the show, and he's worked on some esports stuff, and we were just talking about esports in general and just how it's bad. They cannot figure out a way to make money off of esports. They just can't. And the problem is the way you make money with any sport is through TV contracts. That's where the NFL, NHL, MLB, NBA, that's where they all make their money. It's TV contracts.
Yep.
So the league gets that big chunk of money from NBC or ABC or ESPN or whoever, and then the league takes that money and disperses it equally to every team. So I'm a Pirates fan. The Pirates are terrible. They haven't won the World Series since 1979. They haven't won a playoff series since 1979. They make tons of money because all the TV money coming from all the networks that goes to MLB, the Pirates get the same amount of money as every other team. So they don't care if they win. They don't care how many people come to their games. Just the money they get from the TV deal is enough for the Pittsburgh Pirates to remain profitable every year. It's very frustrating as a Pirates fan. They have no incentive to get better.
So what you're saying is professional sports is communism.
Maybe. But for esports to succeed, no matter the game, that's what's going to have to happen. They're going to need a big TV contract. And look, it could come from Twitch.
Yeah.
Twitch could say, look, we'll give you $1 billion for the next 5 years of Call of Duty esports.
But probably
not.
And then, I mean, you've seen kind of forays into that with the Blizzard paying for stuff to air on ESPN2.
Yep, and then it does like a .08.
The Evo finals were on ESPN2 for 2 years, and then they weren't
TBS is doing
anymore.
stuff. TNT is doing stuff.
They tried the reality show angle. It's just not. I just don't think it translates. The
fans of esports do not want to watch esports on TV.
Television, and a lot of them don't even have cable to.
They don't have linear broadcast at all.
So I don't know where you get that revenue stream from.
The typical ESPN viewer is not gonna. And I will say this: this was a really cool moment. My wife and I were on the East Coast eating dinner at a restaurant, a bar. And
we were drinking.
We actually didn't eat anything. We just did Jaeger bombs for 6 hours. We were having dinner, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, ESPN starts showing esports. It had been on in the bar, showing Sports Center highlights, things like that. And all of a sudden, it switches its programming to esports, and I look around, and this whole bar is playing esports. I was like, this is like a watershed moment.
I thought you were going to say everybody left the bar.
Well, about 10 minutes later, they turned off the esports. So, I'm guessing someone walked up and said, yo, we're watching people play video games.
How about some sports?
Yeah, and they switched it.
What was it?
It was Overwatch. And, I mean, still, though, for 10 minutes in a bar that was packed full of sports fans, esports was on TV. And they need those moments to normalize it. Because eventually, if that keeps happening, that guy isn't going to go up to the bartender and say, hey, turn this off, because it's not sports. Eventually, it's going to assimilate into sporting.
Yeah, but it's so hard to kind of get across. And even some of the ways they run the matches is weird. Like,
we don't understand it.
No,
so how can just some dude who watches ESPN
like at one
understand?
point, like I used to put on the Overwatch League stuff on the main TV when we ate dinner sometimes, so my girlfriend could see it because she really is into that. And like, at one point during one of the capture control matches, I'm like, why did they get a point? Well, I don't understand the scoring system. I'm like, what was the point? Because no one won that match, so why did they get a point? And she's like, well, it's this and this many ticks and that many ticks on this and this is that. And I'm like, why? What does that mean? And like,
why isn't it the team that has the biggest score wins?
And I didn't understand. It's like, why isn't it just like if you win, you win? And like, and she's like, well, because you don't always win, so you need a way to differentiate who did better than the other. And I'm like, but I don't, and like, I mean, it's
because otherwise you're just wasting a match.
It's not like I don't understand scores. It's not like I don't understand video games. It's not like I haven't played Overwatch. But she sat there for like 20 minutes trying to explain this to me, and I just continually didn't get it. And she was getting really mad because I didn't understand what she was talking about. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying.
It's way too complicated.
And like, you just
it's not just that game either.
No,
it's all
also they don't explain that at the beginning of the show, so you can't. Also, these shows last too long.
Yep. And that's the problem with getting them on mainstream TV. They don't want the announcers who are good at announcing esports on their air. Right. So they get some jabroni who's used to like doing beach volleyball to come in and try to announce these esports competitions. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. We don't know anything about doing that to an esports competition.
Yeah, exactly.
How you doing, Evo?
Yeah. So anyway,
that was partially my fault.
But you're right. Gears esports has gone strong all this time, and it still seems to be going strong.
Yeah.
But
I watched some of the Gears championship stuff a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was a lot of shotguns, but but it was interesting because it was a way I've never seen it played because I have never played with people who were any good at it, except for Mike Dembski. Mike Dembski's very good at Gears of War.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to watch and just see how because the maps on Gears are small enough that you could kind of like the spectator cams could kind of show the whole area, and you kind of get more of an angle on like sort of what each team was doing and where they were sticking together and what they were how they were trying to move around on the other team, and like it was interesting. Like I only watched it for like 30 minutes, but it's like it was at least interesting. That's the other problem is like. I think you have the issue of you're constantly changing teams over. So like, it's at least like with a football game or like a soccer game, you turn on the game and you are going to see those two teams playing against each other.
Yeah.
Whereas if you turn on an esports competition, you don't know who the hell's going to be playing at the time you turn it on, and you may or may not catch what you're going to look at.
And there's like 30 teams, and
I mean, it's not unlike, like, say, the Olympics or like a tennis match in that regard, in the sense that, like, there are, but tennis ain't the NFL in terms of lucrative, TV deals, is it? Like, it's you're trying to kind of, and also the fact that it started on streaming, you're sort of trying to back into a TV-based viewing thing, and like I just don't see how you can accomplish that.
You're going to an inferior medium, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Especially in the opinion of the people who are your bread and butter.
They don't want to watch it on TV, even if they have DirecTV or cable. They don't want to watch it on cable. They'd rather go where they can chat with other fans, and I totally get that. So. Esports has a tough road to toe to make money, unfortunately. You need the TV contracts. The TV contracts aren't going to be there.
Unless there's something else. I mean, what else is it? What's the other option? I don't know what that would be.
Twitch generating more revenue than it does, and being able to offer those types of contracts.
And attributing generating that revenue to one specific games, esports, and saying, we'll pay you money to stay here.
Yep.
But the other problem, of course, is that why would you have to pay them to stay there? Where else are they going to go?
Right. Mixer?
Yeah.
The ghost town that's Mixer.
You see, there was some, I can't remember what, it was like some, maybe it was the hard drive or something like that, but it was like some parody article that was basically like, or maybe it was a Penny Arcade thing where the implication was that there are 6 people who watch Mixer and they just jump from channel to channel and make sure that everybody,
it was a Penny Arcade.
Everybody feels like they're being watched at some point.
That was a strip from Penny Arcade last week. That was a one of their few good ones lately. They have not been on a good run.
Yeah, I don't know. I forget Mixer's a thing. Really.
Yeah, but Twitch doesn't really pay anyone for anything.
No.
I mean, honestly,
they don't have to. They're the only game in town.
I mean,
unless
I'm surprised.
Unless you want to try your luck with YouTube streaming.
I'm surprised Twitch hasn't tried to charge Riot.
That's a good point.
Or Blizzard, because think about the overhead that they're putting out for 400,000 people to watch the LCS.
Don't give them any ideas.
I mean, if I was running that business, I'd start looking for ways to make money.
Or like you're just like, hey, you made $3 million for Doctors Without Borders, huh?
Yeah.
Game's done quick.
Yeah.
Why don't you kick some of that our way?
I don't think they would ever do that.
They probably wouldn't, but they're looking at it and being like,
I mean, they are owned by Amazon, which helps. It keeps you from becoming desperate to generate revenue. But I could see them doing something like going to Riot and being like, look, bro, like, we have the data. Every time you do an LCS, we are out about $500,000.
I mean, a really aggressive esports kind of organizer could probably come to them and be like, hey, you're about to spend $10 billion on a Lord of the Rings show nobody wants to watch. Like, maybe you could kick $1 billion our way and see what happens.
Yeah, it's true.
Amazon's done crazier things.
I'm surprised Twitch hasn't started just running broadcast stuff.
Well, you never know.
I mean, Bob Ross is on there.
Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
I mean...
But I'm surprised it hasn't just turned into TV. It might.
Give it time.
It might. Absolutely. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Dragon Quest Builders 2. Vincent is on this game right now. He's playing it for evaluation purposes, and I got review code for him from Square Enix, and they sent us a PS4 version, and that's what he's been playing. And then the day it came out, I randomly got an email from Nintendo, and Nintendo sent me a code for Switch, which is odd. For some reason, Nintendo with Square Enix games has been the distributor of their review code. I don't know what's going on there. If
I was dealing with Square Enix, I'd probably say, hey, I'll just do it myself, too.
After your experience with Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right.
15 years later, no, more than 15 years later. It's like, when did Final Fantasy XI come out? Like 2003?
Yeah.
Like, their account interface is still terrible. Like, still. I don't know. Like, it's pretty. You've got mogs and buttons everywhere, but you know what? I still put my subscription on the wrong goddamn thing. And then you won't refund it because you're like, oh, we can't give refunds for subscription fees. I'm like, well, I'm just going to stop payment on the credit card, maybe. But it's like, it's still terrible.
Yeah.
I just signing up for Final Fantasy XIV. Like, I almost gave up like 3 separate times. Like, the barrier of entry is not like a game difficulty curve. It is a dealing with Square Enix's inability to make anything work properly curve.
It is bad UI for sure. Well, the good news is with Dragon Quest Builders 2, you don't have to worry about any of that.
That's because it's from the Enix side.
Yeah, you're right. It does have online functionality, but basically you can take pictures of the stuff that you create and then upload them, and then like the loading screens are filled with the art that the players have made. You can share it, you can go in and check it out and like upvote it. And I will say that some of the work that people have done in this game is like mind-blowing. For those of you who don't know, this game is basically a mashup of 3 things. It's a JRPG, an action RPG. All the combat is in real time. It is a farming sim, and it is a Minecraft clone. And I would say that all 3 of those elements are distributed pretty evenly throughout the game. Not one of them really dominates the other. But you're probably wondering, based upon the lower third there, what is the one thing that it's the master of? And I would say the thing it does best is building. I've not been a Minecraft fan, never have been. I respect it, and I appreciate that a lot of people do love it. It's just never really connected with me. I enjoy building stuff way more in this game. And I think a lot of it has to do with the art style. The fact that things look like what they're supposed to be. It's like sometimes you get those blocks in Minecraft and they tell you what it's supposed to be, and you're like, that's not that. What are you talking about? In this game, like, you can actually craft a door, or you can craft a fence post, and when you deploy it, it looks like a frickin' fence post or a door.
It helps when you're not like beholden to an art style that was never meant to support the complexity that has ended up in your game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really what's happened with Minecraft, is that the game has outgrown the art style. And this game has the benefit of looking at those mistakes and doing it the right way. And
hey guys, what about curved surfaces? Why don't we just do that in our game?
Yeah, and it absolutely nails that stuff. So the building in this game is really good. It's really intuitive. It's really easy. You can pick it up and do it right away. And looking at some of the examples of stuff that people have built in the galleries is a testament to how easy it is generally to create stuff and build stuff. Now, one thing I would say is I would like the ability to be able to place more than one block at a time instead of having to build everything just block by block by block. And that's something that they could improve. But overall, to me, it's a far better building experience than what you get from Minecraft. And in all honesty, it's far better than the first game was, which I played, I don't know, maybe 10 hours, something like that. I'm about 15 hours into this one. The game's biggest weakness, without a doubt, is the combat. It is the most rudimentary, simple combat system ever. Basically, you have an attack button.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, I'm only 15 hours in. Vincent has told me that he's already put like 35 or 40. He thinks it's around 50. And there are items on the inventory screen that make it appear like you may get more stuff, like a shield. But I've played for 15 hours. All I have is a sword. So there's no defense. There's no parrying. There's no shield for me right now. You attack, and then you try to run away. You attack, and then try to run away. So there's no parrying, there's no rolling, there's no blocking for me right now. You basically have to figure out, hey, is that enemy going to attack? And you have to run away. You can watch it right here. I do it against this mini boss. So the combat in the game, to me, is really weak. In fact, I cannot remember a game in the last couple years that had combat this simple. I was going to say the next one we're going to talk about, but even that. Yeah. It's very simple. So if you're planning on going into this game for arresting battles that require strategy and planning, this is not the game for you. It's very, very simple. The farming part of it is pretty standard. So it's a process that you go through. The first thing you have to do is you have to craft a scarecrow. You put the scarecrow down in the ground, and it highlights an area around the scarecrow. And then the people who are a part of your town will come in automatically and start tilling it. Once it's tilled, then you can start planting the seeds, and then every plant type has a variety of time it takes from seedling to harvest, essentially. Each seedling can only be harvested so many times, so it doesn't just keep growing continually. So there's some strategy in how you lay out your farm. So I always make sure that I keep similar crops together, and I make sure that I plant them in order so I know what the oldest plants are. And that helps you kind of manage it, because you don't want to just go harvesting all your stuff if you don't need it, because you're basically taking stuff that may not grow back again. So there's some strategy in that. The plot in the game, I'm not that far into it. 15 hours out of 50 is not much, but I've been through kind of the setup. And basically, you are on this island, and the island has died, all the soil's dead or whatever, and you venture out to settle new places. And you get on this ship, and they take you to this other island, and that's where you are now. You get to the island, you're what's called a builder. And on this island, the builders are bad guys. For whatever reason, the guy who runs the island has determined that people who can build stuff are bad people, and so everybody initially hates you, but you start doing favors for them.
I hope he lives in a tent.
Yeah, exactly.
Hypocrite.
Yeah, you start doing favors for them, they start to come around, and then ultimately they all become a part of your camp. And really the objective of the game is to just grow your community as big as possible. And everything you do in the game, you get hearts. When you're back at base, you get hearts. So you can leave like food in a chest, and the people who are a part of your community will automatically go and eat it. Every time they eat it, they leave hearts behind. When you complete missions and go back to the quest giver, they leave hearts behind. And as you collect those hearts, and you can see it in the top left there, it says 392 right now. As you collect those hearts, you level up the whole base. There's a bell in your base that you go and you slash and it dings, and then your whole base transforms. More people come to your base to help you farm and take care of other stuff. It becomes easier to craft some stuff. Some stuff you don't even have to craft at all. After a while, I got to the point where I didn't even have to like handle any of the farming. I could just go up to the scarecrow and say, hey, I want this to grow here. And the people in your town just take over. They go and they get the seeds out of the chest, they plant them, they till them. So the game has a good progression as far as, okay, we're going to make you handle this at first, but as time goes on and you make progress through the game, everything becomes more and more automated. But we keep putting new stuff on your plate to keep you engaged. I'm a gameplay first guy, always have been, probably always will be, at least until I get arthritis in my hands. And so to me, this is the gameplay in this is a pretty big disappointment. The farming stuff, the building stuff, neither of those are things that have been, really compelling to me in other games in the past, and they don't really do anything to change them here. And so that leaves me with the combat, and it's just, it's a kid's game. It looks like a kid's game, but there are jokes about like porn magazines and stuff in it. Like one joke talked about like sticky pages in a magazine. Like, I don't know. It's like I can't figure it out.
And it's not for kids, not because it's about porn, but because kids don't know what magazines are.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. So there's like this adult innuendo hidden throughout the game. It's not just like one instance. That stuff pops up kind of all the time. But the combat is so simple and everything else is so simple, and obviously it's a Minecraft clone that's going to appeal to kids. And so I'm not really exactly sure who this game is for. I will say you're going to get a lot of playtime out of it, and there is this weird, compelling gameplay loop that you go through while you play it. I mean, I played it for like 15 hours, so there's something there that got me to keep coming back and booting it up and playing it more and playing it more. The game is pretty bite-sized, so you can make good progress and then save it and not lose anything that you've done. So in that way, it's good as a handheld game. But I don't know. I would have a really hard time recommending this to anyone over the age of like 8 or 9. And even then, I'd be like, well, some of these jokes probably aren't something your parents are going to want to hear. So I really struggle to kind of figure out who this game is for. It's available for Switch and PS4, and I believe there's a PC version. Maybe Vincent in the chat can clarify that.
It was the first one. I assume there'd be another one for this eventually, if not already.
Also, I see Vincent concurs and says it is a compelling loop, and he says it's Minecraft, but it has a point. No PC version, also, Vincent says. So
maybe eventually.
Yeah, I would not recommend buying this at full price. There is a weird compulsion hidden in the game, and I think part of it is that it does, like I said earlier, it does break up the 3 elements evenly. So you're never doing one thing all that long. It's like you go out on an expedition where you do some combat, but then you come back and you got to farm for 20 minutes because you've collected all these seeds and these seedlings, and you need to plant them, and there's somebody at the base now who wants a bathhouse, and you have to build the bathhouse to complete that mission.
So basically, it's throwing enough different objectives at you that you never quite get tired enough of doing one thing that you stop playing.
Yep, you nailed it. So it's like a distraction technique. It's
right.
like, oh, I'm getting sick of this combat because it's so simple and I got to go plant some sugar cane.
Gotta grow corn.
And it does, like, the farming does change. Like, eventually, like, when you start, you're just growing wheat and cabbage, and you just basically throw the seeds in the ground and water them, and they grow. Eventually, though, you get sugar cane, and you can't just plant those. You have to create, like, a flooded plain for the sugar cane to grow in. And so you have to build walls around it, and you have to flood it with water. You get this bottomless pot from completing one objective, and you use that to kind of fill up the reservoir to grow the sugar cane. And so there is kind of a progression of concepts of ideas.
Pretty handy way to get around the whole irrigation concept.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the cool thing about it too. Like there are waterways and irrigation in this. So one of the very first missions you do is, hey, there's this big pool of water. We need water to come down here. So you got to dig out like a trench and then lift the gate, and the water comes down into the pool. There's stuff like that in the game where you have to kind of think about, how can I accomplish this objective with the tools that I've been given. But I think ultimately for most people, and certainly for most of the people who watch GameFace, who do tend to be a little older, I struggle to find a reason to tell them to buy this. I will say, if you buy it for your kid, you won't see him for like 2 months. So if you use video games to babysit your children, this is probably a pretty wise purchase. And I think also maybe too, if you tried Minecraft back in the day and you were like me, you're like, this just feels pointless because I don't really care about building stuff. This does provide a point to the building that Minecraft does not. And the story is flimsy and dumb. And here, this is leveling up the base, by the way, I was talking about earlier, where you ring the bell and it levels up. But if you wanted to like Minecraft but didn't because it felt pointless, this gives you a point. It's not a great point, but it is a point. So maybe you might want to look into it then. Keep your eye out for Vincent's game eval. He said he's nearing the finish line on that, and we'll get that published for you guys as soon as possible. And I am sure he is going to have a lot more insight and a better perspective on this game than I did. But I did want to jump on GameFace and kind of give you my impressions from the first 15 hours or so, which I believe is significant enough to deliver impressions. So if the game's not getting going by 15 hours, it's not going to get going. So there you go. That's Dragon Quest Builders 2, available for Switch and PS4. It is a full-price game. It is not a discount game, but if it does resonate with you, I think you're going to get your money's worth out of this. No problem. So let's move on. So Matt alluded to the game we're going to talk about a minute ago. It is SolSeraph. I have not played this game. I had not even...
A lot of people haven't.
It wasn't even kind of on my radar. And then I started kind of digging up stuff on Sifted, looking at it, and it's a pretty unique game.
Except in the fact that it's a complete ripoff of another game.
What game?
ActRaiser. It's ActRaiser.
You're right, it is ActRaiser.
Which is the only reason I was interested in it. This came out like a couple weeks ago, and right at like a week or so after E3, Sega just announced this was coming. And I was like, all right, ActRaiser clone out of freaking nowhere, sure.
We have 2 trailers for it on Sifted.
And I love ActRaiser, the first ActRaiser. Second ActRaiser was not great. But the first one was this mix of kind of SimCity, like light SimCity, and side-scrolling hard-as-nails action sequences. And platforming combat stuff, which you're seeing the clone of right here. And it was great because if you haven't played ActRaiser, you should go play ActRaiser. It's on the Super Nintendo Classic. It used to be on Virtual Console if you still have a Wii or a Wii U laying around. I guess not a Wii because they shut the online store down.
I think they shut it down for Wii U as well, actually.
I haven't checked. I don't think they have, no.
No?
No. Because if they'd done that, I would have bought the Fatal Frame game.
Nah.
Or, there's emulators. But not that we would ever do that. But so ActRaiser is kind of this great mix of these two things, and with amazing music by Yuzo Koshiro, and was early on at the launch of the NX game as well, before the big merger. Early on in the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom's life, this was kind of one of the tour de forces of the music capability of it, because it was like a full orchestra sort of simulator with a big bombastic classical score going on while you're killing enemies and stuff like that. And this game, SolSeraph, is basically that concept done again, with what seem to be attempts to modernize the concept that don't really work. So
I was surprised to see tower defense.
Yes. So in the original game, in ActRaiser, the way the city building stuff works is you're supposed to be God, basically. You're a god, very strongly implied to be some kind of Judeo-Christian equivalent god. And you have this little angel, little cherub, who is sort of your advisor, and he tells you what's going on, and you fly him around the city areas, and he's sort of your cursor. Like you the people pray for stuff, and then you can have the angel like designate areas for to cast powers, basically. So you've got like, if you need to clear trees, like the people are like, oh, we want to build houses, but there's all this forest everywhere. You can cast lightning and burn all these trees down to create clearings, and then the people will go build houses. Or we need to grow food, but it's all desert here, and so you can call rain down and create like fertile land so people can build it. So basically what you're doing is you're using your god powers to sort of terraform stuff, and the people sort of come along and build what they need to build in response to what you're doing. And there's kind of a nice sort of disconnect between what you can affect and what the people are doing. You're sort of this more distant god character. Now, in SolSeraph, you are directly involved. Like, you pick where every house goes. You pick where every building goes. You choose which people get staffed to which building. It's all very direct, and it kind of loses some of the appeal for me when it's just another basic. It's just Tropico, basically, Tropico with no depth, basically, or like a tower defense style thing. It loses sort of the appeal of, oh, you're sort of this. Because the thing in ActRaiser is like you can tell the villagers never really know whether you're there or not, but they sort of like give you credit for it anyway because these things beyond their comprehension are happening. And in each area in ActRaiser, there's always monster lairs. And so what happens is the monster lairs, like gauntlets, spawn monsters, and they'll come and do bad things. They'll set houses on fire, or they'll come like kill people or whatever, and you have to use the angel, who has a little bow and arrow, to go shoot the monsters and take them down. And the way you stop the monsters from spawning is basically you accomplish whatever the little short story quest of the town is. So you do an action sequence that opens up the area, and then you deal with what's happening in the area. And there's usually like a midpoint like level you have to do where like the people are like, oh, we're things are going wrong and something's bad in this cave, and then you go play a cave level and kill things. And you come back and, oh, everything's a little better. And then we realize, oh, the source is up here. So you have to the town has to kind of go and build up there. And then they go seal the monster lairs. And after you seal the monster lairs, there's usually one final like level you have to do where you fight an actual boss. And then that solves the problem of the town. And you move on to the next area. Now, what SolSeraph has done is it's just tower defense.
Yeah.
There's no...
You build your town and then they attack.
And you can see here, like, they just send endless waves of monsters at you, and they can kill your townspeople, and they have to respawn in the houses. And
it looks like the townspeople are running out to fight them hand to hand.
They do. Like,
that's kind of crazy.
You have to staff the defense buildings with people from the houses. So, like, as they die, the houses will respawn people, and they'll run up and restaff the place that the last person got killed. But essentially, the upshot of this is there is no story, there is no like variation on what you're doing or like what the quests are. You are doing one thing and one thing only, and that is doing the tower defense stuff against endless, monotonous waves of these creatures that just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and more annoying. And as you build the town out, which you do through building more roads, you if you get it close to like a foggy area, which is where the monster spawn stuff is, you basically build a temple, staff it with someone you can never get back for some reason. Whoever prays at that temple never stops again. And then if you do that, you can access the monster lair. You go in, you play a quick little side-scrolling action thing, which ranges from an actual level to like a little like beat 30 monsters thing. And then you basically you've kind of, so you can see here, like, you beat it, and then like the little crystal thing like disappears around the tree, which is kind of the end point of this area, and that's that. But it doesn't stop the monsters. Like, stuff. So
wait, they keep coming out of that nexus there?
Because like there's more nexuses, so they just keep coming.
They start coming from a different direction.
Yeah, and it just doesn't change anything. So you're just sort of.
I mean, that's tower defense.
Yeah, but like, but it's not ActRaiser is the thing. And by trying to change, and of course you're always
have they said officially like this is our spiritual?
Oh, it's absolutely, yeah.
Oh, really?
No question.
Oh,
I mean, you're in the action sequences. People have some of the reviews and people have complained that like, oh, it's unresponsive, and it's like, yeah, it's ActRaiser. Like ActRaiser was tough as nails in part because it had a kind of a Castlevania philosophy of like, yeah, we're not going to help you with the controls, thank you. Like the jump is actually better in this. The jump in ActRaiser was like, you jump, you commit. and like you have to be able to know how long that sword swing comes out and all that. The problem with the action sequences in this is more that the enemies don't they spawn like immediately as you scroll on the screen, but they also do this thing where they're wandering around the background and you can't hit them, and they jump sort of into the foreground to attack, and it's a little sketchy as to when they can hit you versus when you can hit them. So it's sort of a mix of like, oh, it's too hard to gauge when they're going to hit me, but also I can just stand there and swing the sword until they jump into my sword and die, and it's too easy. So it's a weird mix of that.
How often do you go to that kind of side-scrolling action-adventure stuff? Is it
in this,
often?
Not often enough.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't do it very often in ActRaiser, but it was okay because the city-building stuff was compelling.
Right.
This, I just want to get done with the city stuff as fast as humanly possible. Like, there's no reason to linger. There's nothing, no story stuff really comes up. There's no, like, twists they throw at you. It's just build a road out to here. Build a temple where that road stops at the fog. There's your thing. Go jump in, fight them, do it again. Like, you're just grinding your way to the end point of each area, and it's not fun. I find it tedious at best and frustrating at worst because you let enough guys in through the tower defense section and they hit your little bonfire there and you lose, and the save checkpoints can go way back.
Yeah, what happens when that happens?
You go back to your last save, which is generally the last time you fought a monster lair.
Oh.
So if you have been bogged down in tower defense for the last 20 minutes, that's 20 minutes gone.
You lose all of it.
I mean, I think you can do individual saves. I didn't deal with that very much because I never remembered to. Because you never know when things are going to go upside down, and it doesn't help to save then because you're about to die.
Yep.
So I was pretty excited for this because like ActRaiser isn't a game that gets cloned very often.
No, never.
Even by ActRaiser 2.
Right.
Which is weird.
That is weird.
But I found this to be aggressively mediocre. Like, I see the pedigree and I see what they're trying to do, and I applaud that, but they didn't get there. And they didn't get there in the action scenes, but they got closer in the action scenes than they did with the city building stuff. And I understand why you would look at ActRaiser and want to like modernize it and think that this was the way to do it, but it wasn't.
How much is it selling for?
I want to say it's 15.
Okay.
It's $15. Which is fine. Like it's about on the quality of the game in terms of sort of like production value and stuff that's about right. I don't think that's an unfair price at all, except for the fact that like if you are expecting this to be on par with ActRaiser, it's not going to be. I promise. If you want it to scratch the same itch as ActRaiser, it doesn't really even do that because the city building stuff is just not fun.
Is it a good tower defense game?
I don't think so because there's only like 3 buildings.
Dang.
I mean, there's buildings.
There's only 3 units.
They periodically unlock. So you have the tower like that has the archers, and you have a barracks that has soldiers, and then you can build there's like a blacksmith I think that like upgrades it's got like a radius thing. So like you build it near a barracks or an archer tower, like it'll upgrade their attack ability or whatever. And it's not that hard to kind of keep the balance going on that, but like it's just tedious. Also, there's no logic to when those things unlock. They just sort of unlock at a certain point. And at least in ActRaiser, like game concepts were introduced because of a story point or a subplot sort of thing. And like even if it was as simple as like, oh, our little boy disappeared and we have to go find him, and he happened to be in the monster lair, so you have to go beat the monster lair, and then they find Timmy and they give you a prayer and say thank you and everything. Even like the different ways you got like prayer energy in ActRaiser were more compelling because in this you just get it for killing enemies in the tower defense. So like all you have to, so that's the trick is like to build the temple that lets you get into the next monster lair. You have to have a certain amount of prayer energy to build it, and because the tower defense stuff is just so relentless, I was never even close to not having enough for anything.
Oh.
Like it was not an issue, except the only issue was having to constantly build more and more tower defense items to hold off the bigger and bigger waves of stuff coming at me.
Yep.
And when all I want to do, I think the leisurely pace of sort of building these towns and letting the people sort of build the towns out and watching them grow and kind of defending them against the monsters periodically with the bow and arrow, and then like a thing happens and they pray for this thing they want and you have to deliver. Sometimes it wasn't combat related, and in this is just all tower defense and all side-scrolling action stuff, and it doesn't have, I don't mean this as a pun, but it does not have the soul of ActRaiser. It just doesn't have it. They missed the mark on it, and it's a shame because this could have been something really special.
Well, it does leave the door open for somebody else to do it.
It does, but in this case, it took 28 years.
Yeah,
so
chance of that happening are probably
wait for that again. I might not live to see it. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate. I'm not saying I feel like I lost $15 on it too hard because it's not wasn't expensive.
At least it's an indie game.
It was, and like I appreciate kind of the fast turnaround of like, hey, here's this thing. It's coming out in 3 weeks. Go.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool. Like,
do you think though that may be why you ended up buying something that you regret? Because there was that short turnaround time, and there wasn't a lot of time for it to kind of simmer. And
no, I mean, I saw the reviews went up like the night before, and I saw that people were saying it's like it's not great.
Okay.
It's not good. And I bought it anyway because I'm an ActRaiser nut, and like I just wanted something similar, but it wasn't even that good. It was like I was just hoping for something like close enough that I'd be like, I recognize it, and it scratches that same itch a little bit. Because right now, what do I have to do that? ActRaiser, like that's it. There's nothing else like ActRaiser, and there still isn't. There's just sort of this pale imitation, and
so under no circumstances should anyone buy this.
I would say pass for the most part. I mean,
there's much better tower defense games out there.
Yes, and much better side
scrollers.
Yeah, and if you want to play, ActRaiser, go play ActRaiser.
Yeah,
it's better. It's
the
way
value
better.
of tower defense is that
the game from 1991 is way better than this, and that's the irony. Is like, if you wanted to make this game better, all you had to do was be less innovative. Just rip ActRaiser off harder.
Yeah,
that was what they should have done.
Huh.
It sort of feels like what was that game where you're killing the giant monsters?
Shadow of the Colossus.
No, that was the good one. I mean, the one was like where.
Oh, I remember. I know what game you're talking
Extinction
about.
Extinction or something
like
that's
what it was.
Where you fight the giant ogres or whatever.
Yep.
It's like that. I was like, oh, I like this idea. I don't like this, but I like this idea, and I wish someone else would try it. It's one of those.
Tower defense
also involves green-skinned monsters.
Right. Yeah, those enemies look like the guys in that game. It's very funny. But the value of tower defense is basically on par with match 3 puzzle games right now. Like, I just kind of expect to get them for free and either have to look at an ad or get obnoxious requests for me to spend money. But
and this is annoying too, like because you need lumber to build stuff, and these are the most efficient woodsmen in the history of video games. Like these guys can cut down that stand of trees in like 2 minutes. So you're constantly building roads out so they can reach more. So they can reach more trees, and because you're limited in resources by the trees, you generally have to deconstruct the old lumber yard and rebuild it over there. To be fair, if you deconstruct something, you get all the resources back. Like you don't lose anything by building stuff in the wrong place and undoing it and stuff. So that they at least
Dragon Quest Builders 2 is like that too.
They at least recognize
like you destroy a block, you get the block back.
That's the other thing. If you'll notice when he's running around here while it's scrolling. I don't know if you notice this. You are way forward on the screen when you're running forward.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
you're not in the middle.
So monsters can suddenly just be in your face.
That is game development 101.
Where, like, clearly your character could have seen them, but you can't see them because the screen hasn't scrolled that far. But you're over halfway to the side of the screen at times.
When games have crap like that, that's the big old red flag.
Like it's just weird. It's like, and I want to talk about it because I know almost nobody else is going to talk about it. And there's little things I like there's actually a lot of areas. If you do like this game, it's long. Like there's a lot of places. There's multiple areas in the world to do it. I love that when you fly the little angel around, it pushes the clouds out of the way. Like there's nice little touches. I just wish they had just made ActRaiser again.
Yeah.
But I understand why you'd end up in this tower defense situation because
would you complain if they had completely ripped off ActRaiser?
No,
wouldn't.
I would have been super happy.
You wouldn't be like, this is shameless and
I would say
dirty.
it's shameless, but it's great. It's like it ain't like Annex is making it.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, it's like who else is doing it?
They're not going to give it to us. Let someone else do it.
And like it's just weird because like you saw there, like there's a bunch of different buildings there to unlock in that wheel thing. So I haven't gotten to some of those because I was so bored with this. I stopped after 2 areas. So I'm sure it gets more complex later. But you know what? I feel like based on what I've played so far, that like that's just going to make it more annoying.
You're done.
Yeah. So
sometimes you just reach that point with a game.
And I understand
like
making this tower defense section of the game is probably a lot quicker and easier than making like the more detailed and more handcrafted town system of the original ActRaiser. But if you're gonna rip something off, rip off the good stuff.
Oh yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah,
so
absolutely. So that's a big pass on SolSeraph.
Sadly, yes.
It doesn't matter what platforms it's on. Don't buy it no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you can get it in a humble bundle, like for like, you know, as part of like a $12 deal with like 6 other things, worth the download. But that's about
the
all
bandwidth.
Yeah. just if you're gonna steal from the best, actually steal the good
steal
stuff.
The best. Yeah, the stuff that people liked. Yep.
It'd be like making a Mortal Kombat clone with no fatalities.
That's a good analogy. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Nintendo. Nintendo's just killing it, Matt. Everything Nintendo's doing right now is the right thing. I don't know if you guys remember when I first got the Switch at launch, the unit that Nintendo sent me, mind you, my Joy-Con was broken.
Yeah.
It would not work. And Nintendo was having me doing all this troubleshooting. Oh, it's interference. It's too close to your router. It's too close to your It turned out it wasn't any of that. I just got a defective Joy-Con. I sent it to Nintendo. They literally had it for like a day and a half. I got that Joy-Con back the 3rd day after I called Nintendo. That's how fast they fixed it and got it back to me, and it has been gravy ever since. The new one they sent me works perfectly. It still works perfectly. It completely changed the system for me when I finally got one that worked. Other people have had issues with the Joy-Con. And keep in mind, these Joy-Cons are crazy expensive. It's like $80 for a pair of them. So obviously there's some big-time tech going on inside these things. But other people have problems with the analog sticks drifting. For those of you who don't know what a drifting analog stick is, it basically means that even if you don't have your thumb on the stick, the character is still moving on screen.
It's the thing that every PS4 controller I had before the Pro did after a year of owning it.
It's what happened with my launch PS3 controller. After that, I hardly played my PS3. In fact, I played it more than the Wii U, but not by a whole lot. Only to play exclusives, basically. And that analog stick wore out for me and started drifting based on minimal use. Now, I have not had this problem with my Switch Joy-Cons. Have you?
No, but that's probably because I've used the Joy-Cons for maybe 5 minutes total.
Oh, I use them all the time. It's all I use.
I have never played a game with a Joy-Con.
Really?
Except for Pokemon Let's Go, because they force you to.
I would make you sick. I play every Switch game with 2 Joy-Cons separated. Like, seriously, I just sit there with my hands where, like, sometimes my hands are like down to my side and I'm playing a video game. Like, I love that about the Wii. I love that about Switch. Like, I can literally sit in any position, and once you get over the mental hurdle of having to have your hands together in that controller formation, there's no going back. There really isn't. It seems so absurd when I am forced to put my hands very closely together in this position after I've been playing like a lot of Switch. Like, I've been playing a lot of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 over the last like week and a half, and then I would jump back to play something else on PS4. And I'm like, this is silly. Like, and I get that there are certain genres where you kind of need that configuration for you to play them really well, but I love the fact that I can just sit there. I loved it with the Wiimotes too, like being able to separate my hands and just sit there relaxed and play games.
I hate that. I feel like I'm in a coma when I'm doing that.
In a coma?
I play everything with a Pro controller.
Oh, really?
I will never give up the normal controller.
I bought a Pro controller, and I think I've used it like once.
It's so much better than the Joy-Cons. I can't even. I mean, just the.
So what do you like better about it?
Because it's bigger. It fits in my hands. Like, I find the Joy-Cons way too small.
The one thing I hate about the Joy-Cons, though, is because I play with them this way, I hate how hard it is to slide that sleeve on and off of them. because I never want to do it because sometimes I get caught and I feel like I'm breaking them trying to get it off.
And there's actually a right way and a wrong direction to put
and
them on.
You could break them. So I don't do that. And the edges without those sleeves on them, like literally cut your hands. Like it's crazy and there are buttons there too that you can press on that edge. It's really bizarre. But that's my only complaint really. The rest of it, I love it. I love the Joy-Cons. I guess my hands aren't as big as yours or whatever. But
so I believe people when they say they're drifting as much.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
I just haven't had it happen because I don't use them.
Yep.
And the Pro Controller doesn't seem to have the same problem.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any complaints about the Pro Controller.
Pro Controller's great. Man, I've been playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance for probably 20-some hours, and there are periods where I leave it like just paused, and I leave that Pro Controller does not run out of batteries. It's like some kind of demon device. Like it has solar power or something. I don't know how that thing lasts so long.
Have you noticed too that like it takes a long time for Switch controllers to go to sleep?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if there's a setting that I can change for that, but like I'll set my controllers down and I'll come back like 15 minutes later and the lights are still on.
I'll come back hours later and the light's still on. Like I'm like, I was upstairs for like an hour and this thing's still on. Like what's going on? Like aren't you supposed to go to sleep? Like the PS4 would have left a building by now. It's like doesn't care, you know.
Look, I agree with you. I absolutely believe that people are having this problem, and Nintendo believes them too. So Nintendo this week basically, and it didn't even release an official statement, I believe.
They did release an official statement finally.
After Patrick Klepek got a hold of
years.
Well, after Patrick Klepek got a hold of an internal memo and reported on it. So he broke the story for Vice, and then Nintendo announced it like the next day. Yeah, the story's true. Like, so they're fixing.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, so they're fixing all drifting Joy-Cons for free. It doesn't matter how old they are. It doesn't matter if they're damaged. Nintendo just basically said, you know what? We're making so much money right now. We can afford to do this, and why not?
I sure hope you fix that on the light.
Yeah.
Because I can't separate that Joy-Con and send it to you to be repaired.
Yeah, what are they going to do with that?
I have to send you the device.
The device, or they'll have to take the whole thing apart.
Yeah.
I'll say this, I sent them my Joy-Con in, and I thought that they were just going to replace it. And they sent me back the same Joy-Con fixed. Instead of sending me a new one, they busted that thing open and went in and fixed it and put it back together. I was like, what? Like,
it's better than when Xbox sent me a literal time bomb.
Right. Yeah, that controller that the battery was burned up.
Yeah.
Can Nintendo do any wrong right now?
Well, I mean, they could strangle a dog.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what they do to lose. I mean, their fan base is frankly rabid to the point that I don't think they could do anything.
But I don't even think it's the fan base, because I'm pretty over the moon over Nintendo right now. I feel like it's doing everything right. I feel like
I think they've got the best. They've certainly got the most interesting lineup for the rest of the year. It's the only
it's
the only system that has at least one thing of interest per month for me until the end of the year. You look at the release schedule so far, and you're like, God, there's nothing at the. There's almost nothing for the system. I mean, I call them main systems because I don't use the Switch all that much. But I look at the main kind of the PS4, Xbox lineup through the end of December, and I'm just like, God, there's nothing in there. You look at the Switch, it's like, oh, there's that. Like they're nailing it.
I mean,
doing it.
It's the system to own for the rest of this year, without a doubt. I saw someone in chat say they just got a Switch, and they were smart.
Yeah, if you've got free time and you want to play games on a regular basis, new games, they're the only thing in town. It's crazy. People complain about Nintendo, and I have too complained about Nintendo's the frequency of their output, and I think this year they solved it.
Yep. So we got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I just played Dragon Quest Builders 2 on Switch.
Yeah, Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem will be in my inbox in a couple hours.
Hell's right down the street if you know what game store to go.
Right.
Yeah. You've got that chain, Abyssal Chain, was it?
Astral Chain. That's coming next month.
You got Demon Ex Machina, which I think I'm the only one excited about that, but I did like that demo enough to think that the final version might be good.
And that's coming soon.
You've got Pokemon coming. You've got Dragon Quest 11S coming. It just doesn't stop.
It goes on and on. Yeah, you can see now why Animal Crossing was...
They don't need Animal Crossing.
They don't need it.
Your Animal Crossing is going to be good for that first quarter bump.
Oh, yeah.
Right before the financial call.
And it'll do huge.
Huge.
Absolutely huge.
They know what they're doing.
Nintendo's killing it, man. In my time as a games journalist, which 97, 22 years, I've never seen Nintendo like this ever.
I've seen them kind of fired up in the same. I mean, I think 2004 Nintendo sort of had a similar sort of renaissance, but it wasn't as packed as this.
There just wasn't that much great software.
Yeah, it was more that like when they did their kind of Reggie kick-ass take names turnaround, it was more like, oh, we're still going to release like one thing a quarter, but those things are going to be way more interesting now.
Yep.
Whereas this is like, yeah, we have finally recognized that people want to play something. Like
all the time. Remember, like, the excuse, people don't need games that often. And it's so funny going back through the years and the excuses that Nintendo gave for not putting out enough software.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also have if you look now, I mean, they put tons of stuff out if you look at just the new releases on the store, on the system. But you look at that first page and it's like, what is this garbage?
Yeah.
Like, it's just mobile crap. Like ported over. It's like you look at it right now. I took a picture and sent it to one of my friends. It was like, look at this. Look at the front page. It's like it's a bunch of nonsense free things that should be free to play but aren't, and Marvel. Like that's the current new release page. But I mean,
I'll be honest. The Switch gets a ton of shovelware.
Every
day,
unprecedented. It looks like the App Store.
Every day when we're curating, there's like 8 games announced per day for Switch. We don't curate a lot of it because a lot of them are indie games from like 2013.
I'd be fascinated by the economics of that. Like,
I know.
Like, I know that like the big indie games like have a big renaissance on the Switch, and like, you know, even if like something like Hollow Knight's been around for a long time, put it on the Switch, make a few more million copies.
It's crazy.
Like, huge.
Yeah.
But like, is releasing like, you know, generic Western attempt to look like an anime game 45?
I mean,
like,
some of these games on Steam, they're like the ratings are like rock bottom.
Yeah.
And maybe some of these people are just like, it's the Switch Gold Rush, and we're going to try to squeeze another $5,000 out of this failed project that we have. And I'm sure like the certification with Nintendo is easy, and they probably don't, because they were so desperate going into the Switch generation, they probably don't charge.
Yeah. Like, I wish there was some kind of filter you could put on. I mean, I know you can't, Nintendo couldn't do that because like you can't have a filter. It's like, just show me the real games.
Right.
It's like, you know, just show me Fire Emblem and Marvel, pretty much. Although if you go down to like featured, that's pretty
usually
much what you get.
That's a more curated list. But again, 22 years of doing this and loving games my entire life. I mean, I go back to the SNES era. Is probably the last time Nintendo was like this.
Well, yeah, back when like the third parties were releasing everything simultaneously with both systems. Like the parity between Genesis and Super Nintendo was pretty impressive when you got down to like everything that was released on both. It basically came down to whether you wanted the mode 7 or you wanted faster frame rate, or whether you liked the Genesis music sound or the Super Nintendo music sound. Like it was very minor differences. Unless you were playing Aladdin. That was weird.
Right.
Genesis Aladdin is better. But you got a sword.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I'd say because back then I do remember, you know, part of it is probably being distorted by being a teenager at the time and not being aware of anything beyond like, you know, the day-to-day basis of existence. But like, I feel like the same thing was like, oh, there was always something new. There was also because you didn't have release schedules on the internet you could look at all the time. Like, I don't know when that's coming out. Oh, it came out this day.
You have to go to the game store to see what was there.
Well, because it was, or like Toys R Us, or like just see what was new on the wall or whatever. Like,
I
mean, we're talking about an era where like the fact that like Mortal Kombat came out on a specific day, or like Sonic 2 came out on Sonic Tuesday. Like the idea of picking a specific day to promote as like that's the day the game comes out was weird. Yeah, it was unusual.
For sure.
Like
but it's great to see. It is great to see Nintendo like this. And
to see somebody like this. Like,
well, I think also the other point I kind of wanted to make in discussing this is we've seen other platform holders have success like this and not handle it well. I think we're seeing the exact opposite with Nintendo. It is doing exactly...
Well, I mean, Nintendo has been one of them that handled it poorly in the past.
It is, but not anymore.
Finally, they seem to have learned the lesson.
It's everything. It gets presented with challenges, and it seems to tackle them perfectly every time. The only sticking point, to me, is still Nintendo Online. Right. There was a third-party controller.
Bring on the Super Nintendo stuff, please.
Yeah.
Like, God, that NES thing is just a disaster.
I mean, that's the last sticking point, really, for Nintendo in general, is it's got to get its online to a good place. Like,
I mean, it's not hurting them.
Obviously not, or is it? You don't know. Like, you don't know if having better online could help it do even better than it's doing.
Well, I mean, you know what would make the Switch even better? If I could play ActRaiser on it.
That's true. That's a good point. But like a third-party controller was announced for Switch the other day that has like a headphone jack on it. Like what's going on? Like, get a headphone jack.
Well, especially after like Fortnite proved that like you can do it.
It works if you just have the jack. It's mind-boggling. But look,
paying $80 for these damn Joy-Cons, you can put a headphone jack in. How about that instead of that IR thing you never use?
People who have been following me for a long time, followed my work, they know that I'm never a cheerleader like this. It's just not my MO. But sometimes stuff happens and it smacks you in the face. And you need to, when you call people out when they're doing stuff wrong, you need to do that as a journalist. But you also need to celebrate when they're doing things right, and you need to celebrate them, and that's what I'm doing right now with Nintendo. It deserves accolades, it deserves praise. I don't think we'll ever see another non-hybrid Nintendo console. What do you think?
Not. I think this is their niche now.
Because what happened was they're not supporting two platforms anymore.
Right.
They're supporting one. And this is what happens when you support one platform like everybody else does.
Some of these projects would have had to have been other projects that were supporting the 3DS.
Yeah, or these projects wouldn't come out until like the end of the Switch's life cycle. Like it used to happen. They'd announce a bunch of stuff for their platforms and you'd either never see it or it would sneak in right at the end of the generation. Look at Breath of the Wild. For God's sake. Perfect example of it. So,
I mean, to be fair, I think I think they started this earlier than... I mean, the Wii U lasted much less time than they thought it was.
Well, I think they also figured out very quickly it was a failure.
It was not going to be something they could keep with.
And then they could start planning. They're like, okay, what's the bare minimum number of releases we can put out to save face?
Like, okay, this thing we're going to put out to replace the 3DS, what if we put a dock on it?
Yep.
And call it a day?
Yeah.
And say that's just our system now. And
it's
like,
it worked.
It also helps that I don't know how much of this was intentional. I feel like Nintendo's internal people probably could have seen this coming, but it helps that this is happening in a period where Microsoft is pretty much in a holding pattern in preparation for the Scarlet next year, and Sony has basically run silent.
Yeah, and it's kind of been that way for a while.
I mean, Death Stranding's still coming in September. We've still almost certainly got Last of Us in February, but like the Sony hype is pretty quiet right now, just because they've gone dark
until they show that first clip of Uncharted or whatever franchise running on PlayStation 5.
Right.
And it'll all just...
But
everyone will forget.
But I don't think that's happening until, at earliest
it's like
December.
A year. Well, yeah, maybe at PSX they show some stuff.
PSX, or if Keighley gets the big scoop.
I don't see that.
I don't see that. I think we're going to see some cool Nintendo stuff at that.
Keighley show is awesome. It's not that awesome. Sony will not give that something like that out for
Are they doing PSX this year, you think?
50-50 probably. Yeah. I think it depends on whether they want to show that or not. If they want to show PS5 stuff, yes. If they're not ready to show that this year, no.
But until then, and that's pretty much after all the major... Nintendo's got the floor to themselves.
Yep.
For the rest of 2019.
And it is dancing all over the place.
Dance like no one's watching, Nintendo.
I mean, it is. That's what it's doing right now. Yep. So kudos, Nintendo, man. You guys have done an amazing job with Switch. It has far exceeded my expectations.
They're also putting out that Iwata book.
Yeah.
Which looks like a tearjerker.
Yeah.
Like they're playing all the cards right.
They are. They absolutely are.
Not to commodify what seems like a pretty heartfelt project, but it's like that's the right time for that.
It is, for sure. Yep. So kudos to Nintendo, man. I've never seen it like this ever. And I know most of you guys haven't either because you're all younger than me. All right, let's move on to our last topic.
Some old dude's like, oh, the Atari 2600 was amazing.
That is Kane. All right, let's move on to our last topic for episode 174 in our brand new studio. We're going to talk about a game that comes out tomorrow. I got it yesterday. I have not had as much time to play it as I would have liked because reasons. And that is Wolfenstein Youngblood. It comes out tomorrow for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. No Switch version yet.
I saw it on Switch, though.
Oh, it is a Switch game.
Yeah, there was a Switch pre-order when I went to get Fire Emblem.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I don't know if it's tomorrow, but I definitely saw Youngblood signage
that's great.
in the Switch store.
Bethesda has been great about supporting Switch, so that shouldn't surprise me at all that they would be putting out a version. But for some reason, I thought this was the one that they weren't.
I hadn't been paying attention, but I definitely saw Youngblood stuff in the Switch store.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, I'm sure, will let us know that whether it's on Switch or not. But anyway, I've been playing Wolfenstein Youngblood. It's
already out on PC. Yeah.
It's already out on PC?
Came out yesterday on PC.
Really?
There was a reason for that, but I don't remember what it was. It went live early for some reason.
Was it like an accident or was
it was planned? I don't remember why, but there was a reason for it, and I don't know what it was now.
Well, reviews came out for this game today, which I was kind of surprised about because Bethesda has not been good about sending out code early. Like I said, I got it yesterday, so 2 days before. So I guess
I like we can yell right at Todd now.
He's right there. We can yell at a lot of people with this set. We can have some very interesting moments with this set where if we get really angry with somebody that's on the set, we can just have a direct conversation with them right there. So yeah, Wolfenstein Youngblood features B.J. Blazkowicz. Is that the right way to say it? Blazkowicz.
I mean, it probably originally was supposed to be Vitz, but he's American now.
Right. It follows his 2 twin daughters. The crazy thing about this game is, at the open, they show you what domestic life is at the Blazkowicz house. I'm never going to say it right now. Because I've got like 4 different versions running through my head. And as you might imagine, if you're married to or raised by BJ, your childhood and your domestic life aren't ideal.
Well, especially when you're growing up in a Nazi-controlled
world. Yeah. So the game starts, and it's like BJ... They're basically trying to make you give a crap about BJ. So they show him rearing his daughters, teaching them how to shoot a gun. The mom's teaching the other daughter how to punch a heavy bag, blah, blah, blah. But it shows this weird, nuclear family unit, which to me is very bizarre because BJ has always been, I don't even know if I could call him a one-dimensional character. He's like a half-dimensional character.
Did you not play the other 2 games?
Yeah, of course I did.
I mean, they
have that weird, internal dialogue stuff that goes on.
Yeah, if you can hear it.
Right. But
that was the weird thing about was it New Colossus was the last one?
Yeah.
That was the weird one about that was, I couldn't hear what he was whispering about over the gunfire most of the time. I never turned subtitles on. I had to turn subtitles on that game because I couldn't hear what he was monologuing about in his head. But they're trying to make him into a more of a layered character who wasn't just the Doom guy.
Meathead, yeah.
That's kind of what I appreciate about the modern Wolfenstein versus the modern Doom is Doom embraces the idea that the guy in that game is just a crazy monster killer guy who has no personality besides I want to kill demons. And BJ they try to make into sort of more of a human.
They try really hard in this one. So it starts out you're at home with the family, and he's, like I said, he's teaching one daughter to shoot. The mom's teaching another girl to melee.
Because they know what's coming.
Yeah, and then it starts to hit you what their lives are like, because they're basically the stuff that they're talking about is they could come any minute, they could be here any day. You got to prepare. You're only 13, but you need to know how to shoot a rifle. It's a horrible existence.
Yeah, because BJ is one of the most notorious Nazi killers in the world. So if they ever find them,
yep. So then it flashes forward to a near future. I'm not it goes from 1980 to sometime a little bit past now, but the Nazis have still taken over. They're still in control.
Well, so I think Anya and BJ are in their mid 50s.
Yep.
So it would be it'd be the 80s.
Yeah.
It'd be the mid 80s.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, no, you're right. It would be the 80s. So the dates that they flash up are 79 and 80. The technology in the game goes far beyond what was available in real 1979 and 1980.
Well, also true in the previous game. The diesel punk stuff really pushes the boundaries, and they had that weird super kind of almost Halo suit in the last one with which it looks like everybody has one.
You can see here she's teaching her child don't ever let your guard down or someone will slit your throat. Yeah, it's what kind of existence is this? And they do push back. Both the daughters don't necessarily want this life. And that's kind of what the early part of the plot plays off of. Is so BJ goes missing, and they go to Paris to try and find him. And at this point, they're a part of the FBI. So FBI drops them off in Paris on this insane Nazi airship, and they go in looking for him, and that's kind of how the game kicks off. But they get on the ship, and this is weird, because if they're in the FBI, you would think they would have had this training and stuff already, but...
There's an FBI?
It says, yeah, the helicopter they fly, and you'll see it in a second, it says FBI on the seats of the helicopter.
I assume this is some kind of, like, government in exile thing?
I guess. I don't know.
Because the Nazis control America, right?
Yeah.
We didn't win that fight. I guess did they? I never finished the second one. Did they?
It was hard.
Did they?
Hard as nails.
Did they like win a piece of Texas back or something? Like,
I don't know
what the state of the world was.
I don't remember. I don't remember at all. But anyway, you're gonna see the helicopter here. But they land on this Nazi airship, and they get inside, and they see a Nazi. And like the scene that we were seeing before with them talking to that woman in the bunker, that woman is challenging them. They're like, just because you're BJ's kids doesn't mean that you're a Nazi killer. You need to prove to me that you're a Nazi killer. So
you're not a Nazi killer till you kill some Nazis.
Till you kill a Nazi. So they land on this ship. And
standards here. Come on.
Yeah, and this is their first target. And the banter between the two girls here as they try to figure out, like, can they kill somebody is pretty interesting. And again, you would think it was something they would have gotten over before they go on a mission. But this, and you're watching it right now. So this is them, like, trying to kill someone for the very first time. And they're, like, petrified. So she stabs the Nazi and realizes she doesn't kill him. And then he goes, oh, you're going to get it now. And she's like, oh, crap. Oh. Sis comes through. Now watch this. They blow his head off, then she pukes. And then cheers.
Pretty common.
But I like this, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Like, I like this different tone. I like a video game where the people in it are like, you know what? I've never done this before, and this is freaking insane. Like, what are we doing? We're, like, on a Nazi ship trying to kill Nazis to rescue our dad in Paris.
Well, I'm also wondering if they get into the idea that, like, you know, that kind of you're sort of pinning your hopes of you know, finally taking down this Nazi regime on these kids now that, you know, kind of that these time has passed and they're the new generation, but this new generation doesn't know what they're fighting for.
Right. Yeah.
You know? Like they don't know what the world before the Nazis was. So like it's hard to have these kids fight, you know, life and limb on the line for this world that they don't know.
They never experienced. That's a good point.
They don't know what an ice cream parlor is.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my plan when climate change makes this whole place into like Mad Max. I'm gonna be like 75, like wandering a wasteland, like there's like wasteland coot, like telling children about milkshakes.
Yeah, they were delicious.
You'll never know what a milkshake tastes like that, but it was incredible.
Yeah, just trust me, kid. But so once you start playing, it is drop in, drop out co-op at any time. People can join in with you at any time, and their progress will always get saved towards their single-player game, which is great. That's a big issue for me that I've complained about in the past, so I'm really happy about that. The game forces you to do stealth. The stealth sucks. I'll say that right out of the gate.
That's always been true.
Yeah. I mean
luckily, like I don't know about this game, but I know the previous games, the advantage on the stealth was that if you failed the stealth, it didn't, like, there's no penalty. You just had to get in a firefight.
Yeah, I mean, alarms will go off in this, but there's so many enemies anyway that it doesn't seem like the alarms really change much because every room just gets flooded with enemies eventually. The way the co-op works is when you boot up the game for the first time, you pick which of the twins you want to play as. And then there's very simple customization. Like there's like a few outfits to choose from. You can choose from like a couple helmets and whether you want to wear it or not.
Is it the same like skill upgrade system where you have to like accomplish like some weird little trick to get the ability to like throw knives or whatever?
No, you earn points and then you just go into a menu and spend the skill points. Yeah.
I kind of like the system in the other two where like to upgrade this ability, like you had to like, you know, headshot 4 officers with this pistol or whatever. Like I kind of like the where they forced you to sort of do stupid human tricks to. It's almost like achievements, except they rewarded you with new character skills. Yeah,
arbitrarily, they just reward you with skill points in this one.
Oh, that's kind of too bad.
Yeah, and you can go into the tree and then update them there. But anyway, so after you choose your character, you can choose from one of 2 moves. One of them is a cloaking device that makes you invisible, and the other is this like shoulder charge melee attack. So I thought about it. I'm like, oh, the way I play, I probably want the shoulder charge. So I took the shoulder charge. Oh, no, I should have absolutely chosen the cloak because they ask you to do stealth in this game a lot. So if you buy this tomorrow and boot it up, just trust me, pick the cloak. It's the better choice. Now, I will say this. You get the option to get the cloak pretty quickly if you choose the shoulder charge. It's almost like Arcane and Machine Games was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, you need the cloak way more in this game. So if somebody chooses the shoulder charge, we're going to give it to them pretty quickly. But still, even in the early going, it's better to have the cloak. So make sure you choose that. Once you start the game, you can set to play as private, and you have a CPU-controlled partner that plays along with you. And I will say this, it's pretty smart. The one thing I don't like is you basically have to request the CPU to revive you instead of going down and they just automatically revive you. Like, you can choose to call for help or bleed out, and you'll be laying there on the ground like right next to your partner and they won't revive you. As soon as you tap call for help, revives you right away, which is a little odd, I thought.
Little initiative, please.
Yeah, they want you to tell them to do it. Otherwise, she'll just keep fighting like alongside you. Like I said, drop in, drop out co-op. You can set it up so nobody can join you. You can set it so anybody can join you. You can set it so just your friends can join you. But they can jump in and jump out. If they leave, CPU takes over right away. The co-op in this is handled very, very well. The one thing I would say that I'm a little disappointed in that I haven't seen so far, and again, I haven't played a ton, is that I don't see a lot of team up and synergy stuff where you kind of work together as a team. With attacks or anything like that. You're just kind of like discrete soldiers working together, but nothing that you do together to take down bosses and things like that. Unlike Gears 5, the shooting in this is sublime. It's Wolfenstein. It has been for the last 2 games. The shooting in this feels amazing. No such problems targeting in this game. And it didn't seem like the auto-aim was too over-generous either. But the guns feel great. The guns, like other Wolfenstein games, you don't get a ton of guns. There's like that base wheel that fills up, and once it's filled up, you're pretty much done. It's not like one of these games where every mission you're getting this new fancy pistol or some kind of crazy energy weapon or whatever. You have like a shotgun, an LMG, an SMG, an assault rifle, and a pistol. And then over time, you can level those up and make them more powerful. But overall, the arsenal is pretty focused.
What do you use the silver coins for that you're picking up there?
For upgrades as well. Yeah, so upgrades and skill point, or coins and skill points. Some upgrades need both. Some upgrades only need one or the other. But yeah, it's a little weird, and mostly the coins are used for like the weapon upgrades. It's like you have to buy them or whatever. Another cool thing about how they handle co-op is shared lives. So as you play throughout the game, you'll find these crates that are called shared lives crates, and basically you have to wait. Your partner has to be there, and you open the crate together, and it basically gives you both an extra life that you share between the two of you. So whichever one goes down first burns that life, but then obviously the other one can come and revive if they need to. Now, the reviving thing might bother Wolfenstein fans because that's not something that's been a part of the franchise. But it's a co-op game, and you kind of, if you're going to play co-op, you kind of need to be able to revive each other. So I get why they did it, but I think people who really like the pure Wolfenstein experience are probably going to be disappointed. The other thing I would say, too, is this game is a lot easier. I know I had problems with some parts of the last Wolfenstein game. Some parts where I got so frustrated I almost gave up.
There are definitely some choke points.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so far with this game, I've had none of that. The challenge is there. I will say this, though. There's a big disparity between enemies. So there are some enemies where you just run and just shoot, and boom, they fly back, they're dead. And then there are the armored guys who you shoot at point-blank range with a shotgun, and they lose like 2 pixels off their health bar. And those are the guys that you're constantly running away from to get distance from. And we've all played shooters that have heavies in them. But they stand out from the regular enemies a lot because the rank and file guys are very, very easy to take down. And it's a little weird. Like, you get in these skirmishes where you're in a room and they flood it with enemies and you're running around and you're just taking out guys with one shotgun blast. Boom, boom, they're dropping, and then there's this tank like in the middle of it all. So what I found is a lot of times it ends up you just go and take out all the easy guys and leave the tanks, and then when you have two people fighting the tank, you can only shoot it one at a time. And it makes it kind of easy to take them out eventually. But the banter in this game is really good. It is set in the 80s, so you hear stuff like tubular and radical. Like
I don't know if that would work.
Well, also if you think about the fact that this is an alternate history,
but
maybe tubular never happens.
But apparently Sean Penn still was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Well, you remember in the 80s, Valley Girls were like a thing. Like maybe they weren't for you because you lived in California, but if you lived on the East Coast,
Valley Girls are from California.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like here, if you lived here, you're just like those are just girls that live in the valley.
I know that. What I'm saying is that in a Nazi-occupied alternate reality, the slang probably wouldn't be the same. Yeah,
right. There are no Valley Girls. Yeah. Absolutely.
Tubular comes from the surf culture. A lot of surfers.
Yeah.
I remember Nazi Surfers Must Die, but that was a different movie.
I thought that was Nazi Punks Must Die. No, that's a Dead Kennedy song.
Yeah.
But anyway,
zombie surfers. I don't know. Zombies, Nazis, same difference.
But anyway, the banter between the girls is great because not only are they like ragging on their dad the whole time while they're concerned about rescuing him and finding him. They're cracking jokes about him the whole time.
I saw a complaint today on Twitter that someone wished that they didn't say each other's names as often. That was one of the weirdest complaints I've ever seen.
Yeah, on anything. Look, I haven't made it that far into the game yet, so it hasn't bothered me yet, but they do say it a lot because while combat is happening, there's canned responses. So it's like, I need ammo, but they do use their names every time.
So you might end up in like a Titanic situation where it's like Jack, Rose, Jack, Rose, Jack.
Yeah, so I actually, now that I think about it, I could see where when you get to the end of the game, it might start to get annoying. But you do realize very quickly what their names are and which one's which. I'll say that much. And there are boss fights. The boss fights they're kind of like the heavies. They're like way tougher than like the rest of the enemies in the game, as they should be. They are the boss fights. But they do use special abilities. Like the first boss you fight cloaks. And that's when I realized that I should have chose the cloak instead of the shoulder charge because I was like, duh, being invisible lets you do anything. I'm like, why would I choose a shoulder charge? But anyway, and there are boss fights, and in that way, those do play very similar to prior Wolfenstein games. But I think, most people who are looking at this game are probably people who are fans of Wolfenstein. And while it has the same characters and the same setting and kind of the same plot, it doesn't really play like Wolfenstein anymore. I would argue it plays more like a typical first-person shooter than what you've kind of come to know and love from Wolfenstein. But I am having a ton of fun with it. I've really enjoyed playing co-op. The reviews I've seen today seem low, but again, I haven't played that much. So maybe, again, as you play it more, some of the stuff that isn't immediately apparent in the first handful of hours become annoying.
It's also $30, right?
I think it is discounted. I don't think it's 30 though.
I thought it was like half price.
It's cheaper. I thought it was 40, 39 maybe. Reports are saying that this game is about 15 to 20 hours long, so it's not like this gigantic. And that may explain why they did the progression system different instead of, like you said, like based upon your actions. Just giving you points to use because the game isn't as long as the base Wolfenstein games are. Maybe they decided to tweak that a bit. I don't know.
Base Wolfenstein games longer than 30 hours?
No, longer than 15. Not by a lot. But they're like, 18, 20 hours typically. Wolfenstein. Well, I guess it depends on how good you are. Someone could probably speedrun it in like an hour. But for me, it takes me like 18 to 20 hours because I die a lot.
Yeah, $30.
$30. Wow.
It was $30 on Steam.
Wow. Okay. Then those reviews today must not take into account how much a game costs.
$39.99 for the deluxe version. I don't know what that is.
That's what they sent me was the deluxe version. Oh, I know what the deluxe version does, actually.
The Buddy Pass.
Yeah, right. And this is a really cool... I'm glad you brought that up. It's a really cool feature. So if you get the deluxe edition, and as Matt says, it's $10 more... it gives the ability for a friend on your friends list to come into your game and play it cooperatively without ever buying the game. So tonight, when I'm playing this at home, if you guys see me on PSN, you can jump in and play with me all the way through the whole game without ever spending a penny, because I got the deluxe edition. Now, I didn't pay for it, Bethesda sent it to me, but like tonight, you could play with me. You could jump on PSN. You could play through the whole game without buying it with me, which is a pretty cool feature, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think your progress continues if you buy it.
It does. Yeah, I'm not sure why Bethesda did this. I mean, you're basically like chopping out a percentage of your potential customer base by doing this. Because you're not getting a penny from the second guy.
Get an extra $10
from the first guy. Yeah. It's weird. I wonder how many people will buy the deluxe edition. I wonder how many friends are going to be like, yo, bro, how about we just spend the $40? I pay 20, you pay 20. It certainly presents a lot of new things that perhaps haven't been a part of games for a while. I do have some complaints based on the limited amount of time that I've played. There are some rough checkpoints in this game. There are checkpoints where you have to fight through several rooms of tough enemies and then fight a boss. And so you die on the boss fight. You have to fight through those same rooms again to fight the boss. There's also some weird quirks with how if you use up all your stuff and then die and respawn, it's gone. So if you are getting fed up fighting a boss and you're tired of like using just your typical weapons to fight him and you unload with like your heavy ammo, it doesn't come back. So keep that in mind. Typically I save ammo like that just for the tough bosses. That's why I don't use it until then. But if you're a player that wants to hoard your big weapons or your big ammo, just keep in mind if you use it and die, you don't get it back. It's gory as all get out. I think you probably saw from that scene where the Nazi's head gets blown off. That is one part where it is absolutely in line with Wolfenstein. And I would say that there are moments that are shocking. Like I've talked about the last Wolfenstein a couple times, that there were some scenes in that where I was like, whoa. And there's a couple of them in this too. So as far as tone is concerned in that way, it is right on the razor's point for Wolfenstein. So I feel like they've done a good job with that. It's funny, the banter, like I said, I like the banter a lot, but the writing's good, the one-liners are good. I laughed out loud a couple times just in the first few hours of playing it. And then, they always soften the blow of the seriousness and the gore with a good joke. They did that in the last Wolfensteins, and they do that here. It's like you have that moment where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they... It's a very weird game to play. The weapons feel great. The shotgun in this game feels so freaking amazing and powerful, mostly because with most of the enemies, you shoot them once and they fly back like 15 feet, but then like you fight this heavy. Watch my shotgun, how little health it takes off of this guy.
So what's the strategy? Is there like a place on him you have to shoot, or
I haven't figured it out. My strategy was run away, get way far away from him and shoot him until he gets close and then run away again. That's pretty much how I beat him. But I'm having a ton of fun with it so far. I'm only like 3 hours into the game, and we'll come back next week and we'll talk about it, and I'll go into more detail about the later parts of the game. But handful of hours in, I'm having a good time. Based upon what I've played so far, I would say the reviews are a little low, but again...
What's it getting?
It's like 7.5, 8-ish, something like that so far. But again, I've not played much of it, so I'm not going to say anyone's wrong or anything like that. Just based upon the first handful of hours, it's better than that score, but we'll see if it can maintain that throughout the entire experience. At $30, go buy it. Like, seriously, I had no idea it was that cheap. I thought it was $40. $30, go buy it. No brainer.
I just looked it up on the PlayStation Store, and it's $30.
And it's 30.
$40 for
no brainer.
$40 for the deluxe.
$30, no brainer. It's awesome. For $30, that's one of the best deals you're going to have this year, I think. Even having only played, I feel like I may have got $30 worth already, to be honest with you. So that's why I'm sitting here saying, man, if I'm going to get like 3 times more of the time I've played for $30, I would do that in a heartbeat. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. $30, all platforms. Thumb up.
All right.
You'll get it. All right. It's time for our trailer of the week here on GameFace, episode 174. If you guys have been on Sifted in the last couple days, I can guarantee you know what the trailer of the week is going to be this week. Also, as always, while we're running the trailer of the week, get your questions in the chat. We're going to do a lengthy Q&A because we haven't hung with you guys for a while. So get your questions in the chat. As always, go at Sifted Games in the chat. It makes it easier for us to pluck out your questions. But anyway, our trailer of the week this week, you saw what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I figured there's what it'd be anyway.
So the first trailer for the Witcher series on Netflix came out this week, and it had to be our trailer of the week. Let's roll it.
I remember hearing stories about witches. Is it true what they say?
Elves are the original sorcerers of the continent. When humans and monsters arrived, elves taught the humans how to turn chaos into magic. And then the humans slaughtered them.
Chaos is the most dangerous thing in this world. But without control, chaos will kill you.
So that's all life is to you? Monsters and money?
It's all it needs to be.
Something out there waits for you.
This child will be extraordinary.
Yennefer, imagine the most powerful woman in the world. Do you have what it takes?
You've got her here. She's why they came. You can't outrun destiny just because you're terrified of it. It's coming. Fight Guild of Rivia.
I can't do this without you.
No matter what you choose, you'll come out bloody.
So what do you think, Matt?
Looks like The Witcher.
Yeah, I mean, are you pretty happy with what you saw?
More or less. I mean,
I am.
It looks like they're getting it. I mean, it's obviously based more on the books than the games, which are a very different thing.
Yeah.
But, it looks good. Cavill looks like Geralt. Like, I think
They cast him perfectly.
chose wisely on that. Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes to adapting like weird niche source material like that, the fact that I can look at all that and say, like, yeah, I know who all those people are. Like, that's great. Like, it's already better than the X-Men. So, like, it's I mean, I'm interested. Like, I have my continuing complaint with Netflix stuff that, like, they always have like about 2 episodes more than they need for the storytelling, and so you get a like kind of that lull in the middle where they just repeat the same plot points over and over. We'll see if they've been getting a little better about that. Stranger Things season 3 didn't do that. Certainly not as badly as 2 did. So we'll see if The Witcher comes up with enough story to fill out its episode count. But I like what I see so far.
I'm certainly happy with the production value so far.
Yeah, I mean, they're going for they want a Game of Thrones.
It looks like Game of Thrones.
That's what they're after, so I think they're throwing that kind of money at it. It's also what Amazon is doing with the Lord of the Rings Second Age show. So
it's exciting.
We'll
It's exciting. I'm pumped, man. I that looks way better than I thought it was going to look. I have to admit.
Certainly looks way better than the first attempt.
Yeah.
I mean, that didn't air outside of Poland, but
right.
Didn't look like that.
Nope. Definitely not. I think it looks awesome and it looks hot. So let's get to Q&A. First of all, I want to thank all you guys who are subscribing via Twitch Prime. It's been a while. Our month so we had a really bad month a couple months ago. I mentioned it. And then we had a great month. And then I didn't mention it, and it went back to terrible again. So let's get it back up to where it needs to be for this month, particularly when we're now here in the studio and all the costs associated with it, with insurance and internet and all that other stuff. So thank you guys for subscribing. I'm going to go through very quickly and name you guys. Justin Horman, thank you. Veritas, thank you. Nexus 6 Batty, I think. Thank you. Who else? Mike's Q, thank you. Who did voiceover for our last Sifted Countdown. All right, that's it for the end of the show. Let's get to some questions. W. Matthew, we got to. First show in the new studio, got to answer a question from W. Matthew. What's your guys' take on the Shadowbringers, the Final Fantasy XIV expansion pack, being the highest scored game of the year? Well, are you asking if it's going to win game of the year? If that's the case, no.
I don't have a take on it because I have to play 120 hours of the game before I can see it.
Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, you can buy a thing that lets you skip ahead, but I didn't.
You have to buy the thing that skips
you
ahead?
It's like a token that can skip you
ahead.
What? Yeah.
That's weird. Because Blizzard kind of figured out how to do that with World of Warcraft already, like how to get people who haven't played much to get into the expansion, right? Mm-hmm. Without paying, also, if I remember.
I mean, typically the expansions came with like a free character. Like when the Death Knight showed up, you could create a Death Knight at like that higher level and just jump right into it. Wrath of the Lich King. I haven't played World of Warcraft since Cataclysm, so I don't know like what they've done since then. But yeah, it's I mean it's a little nominal fee to jump ahead. You can jump basically by a token and jump you ahead to pretty much any expansion content. From what I understand, a Realm Reborn is sort of the slog you have to go to get to the good stuff. Like, not that a Realm Reborn is terrible, but it is pretty bog standard MMO. A lot of fetch questing, a lot of running back and forth stuff, and then once you get to, I think it's Heavensward, like, apparently it gets good, really good. And of course, Shadowbringer is. I mean, there was somebody, was it Kat Bailey? Somebody was saying on Twitter like she was like, not only is this great, but it's like it reminded me of why I play video games.
Whoa!
And I'm like, wow! Like
an MMO.
Like the praise this thing gets is. I mean, that's why I bought it because it was a good deal anyway on the Steam Summer Sale. But I was like, I got to see what this is. Like people, and like Benson, our friend Mike Benson, like he loves Final Fantasy 14, and like he thinks it's one of the greatest things he's ever played. And he doesn't have the time to play Shadowbringers right now, but he wishes he could. Like it's on his plan for the year to get to it. Like like people praise this thing's expansion content so much. I'm like, I got to see what this is at some point. But it just turns out I got to play. I will admit that I have played probably like 20 or so hours of it. Like I'm just about to get my Chocobo, my mount, which is like 20-hour mark is about the rule of thumb on that. It is pretty bog standard MMO, but like I'm really enjoying the world, like all the cities you go to, and the world is beautiful, and like it has a kind of it makes like a cultural sense that a lot of MMOs don't. Like I think it's really involving to just walk around the world and see stuff.
Square Enix is good at creating worlds.
Yeah,
whether it's interesting to be in them or not, that's kind of its X factor.
They hit a wall sometimes when it comes to putting interesting characters in them.
Yeah.
But you can't argue that like even the world of Final Fantasy 15, it's not like you can walk around that and be like, oh, this is really interesting. I want to know, but oh no, I don't want to know the story behind that because it's stupid.
Yeah.
But you just look at it, it's like, oh, that's cool. Like you just walking into that for like my character, the class I picked ended up starting me in like the desert city, and like just wandering. The city's big. There's a lot of like different areas and districts to see, and like characters to run into and sort of like stuff going on. It feels populated and real in a way that a lot of MMO stuff doesn't. There's that kind of that sterility that a lot of MMOs have. Final Fantasy 14 doesn't have that.
Interesting.
Like it's weirdly believable. Like it feels like they expect you to play it as a single player in a lot of ways. Like the story is very focused on you and your character. It's taken some cues maybe from SWTOR. In that respect, so I am actually enjoying it. It's just I don't have the time to burn through it.
What about the question though? What do you think about it, like being considered for game?
I don't
of the year?
know. Like I mean, maybe like if I get to it by the end of the year, maybe I'll have an answer for that. But I don't. All I know is that the people that are praising it on that level, a lot of them are people that I respect and whose opinions I take seriously. So like all I can say is like I guess I got to get to this damn thing.
I don't think it'll ever win game of the year. I don't think it will.
I don't mean from like general outlets and
stuff?
stuff?
Just like, in general.
No one's going to, not enough people are going to play it.
It's also hard to give it, I think, to give an expansion pack game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, expansion pack could get like a expansion pack of the year, like a sequel.
Yeah,
I mean, but like
game of the year. That's
the problem is that like I just don't think a lot of people who haven't played it are going to get to it. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to play it. There's no way in hell I'm playing it.
I mean, if I were Square and
you can tell me it's the most awesome thing you ever played, and I probably still wouldn't even try.
If I were Square and it was coming down to closer to the end of the year, I would start sending out codes with a thing to jump straight to the Shadowbringer content and just say, hey, try it.
Yeah, if you want that game, you're going to have to do that. If
like
you
a
want
for your consideration campaign, basically.
Absolutely. Let's see. J. Reed Vic 7. The Witcher Netflix series is going to inevitably be compared to Witcher 3, even though it's a book adaptation. Is this the first story-driven game adjacent property that's had a noteworthy outing on television or film?
Like a first game to do that?
Yeah. For the first story-driven game adjacent property.
I mean, there have been fairly high-profile anime adaptations of some story-driven games. Like, there was the Final Fantasy anime, and I think a Dragon Quest one at some point. Like,
well, that Final Fantasy anime wasn't good.
No, but it was a high-profile project. There was also Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which was also terrible.
A disaster.
But it was a theatrical major release.
Yeah, for sure.
That almost bankrupted Square, and
how's that server farm in Hawaii doing?
Yeah. I mean,
still making you money?
I mean, it's probably the most likely to be successful. Not that we'll ever know, because Netflix doesn't tell anybody how anything does, and unless they do like a this many million people watched it. Like, even people that work on Netflix shows don't know how well their shows did. They won't tell you.
It's got to be frustrating.
It is, because it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter how. Like, you're like, oh, I bet David Letterman. No, David Letterman doesn't know.
Yeah.
David Letterman doesn't know how his show's doing.
Does. Yeah,
has no idea.
I can see that there's certain positives to that approach, but I think there's more negatives, particularly from the creative person's standpoint.
Well, you got to know, like, if this isn't working, like, maybe we can do
how
something
do you adjust
different.
if you don't know?
Yeah, it's just like,
weird.
No, they aren't interested in that.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
So I don't know. I mean, it certainly looks like maybe the best looking attempt at a video game adaptation.
Oh yeah. I
mean, there's been stuff that's like true to the content, the way like Mortal Kombat was. But
I haven't even seen a film that looks.
Mortal Kombat's based on, or like Silent Hill. The Silent Hill movies like looked the verisimilitude was there, but they weren't good movies really.
Yeah. I mean, the bar is low.
The bar is very low.
But that said, it looks pretty great.
It does.
That spider coming up out of the
and
muck,
again, it's based on the books. So
yeah.
the books are. I mean, curious to see the differences between. Because the Geralt of the games is not the same as the Geralt in the books, in part because he's older and has gone through other things, so he's not the same character. The Geralt in the books is a different beast. And it'll be interesting to see how they portray that. It'll be interesting to see how they get into the Geralt-Yennefer relationship, because you see how that works out in Witcher 3, but you don't really... You know, they're pretty vague about what happened. Like, what happens in the actual stories is actually pretty sad. And then what happens to resolve that is interesting, but it raises a very pertinent question, which is then answered either way you wish it to be in Witcher 3.
See, that's the thing for me, is it's weird to create a linear piece of content based upon something that was non-linear. So it's like Yennefer. Like, you can romance various women in the game. It doesn't have to be Yennefer. So... It's weird when you try to place your expectations on the TV show or film, knowing that the game that they're based on could have gone different directions.
But it's not based on the game.
Right, it's based on the books. But I think most people, that's going to be their reflection point for watching the show.
But it's going to be very clearly like the prequel, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's telling the story of the books, which are prequels to the games. And the game, you know, the first Witcher game picks up after the end of the books, which you thought was a very definitive end, but they came up with a way to continue it, which the author apparently doesn't like very much. But you know, it's basically a prequel in that regard.
Yeah.
And the story of his relationship with her is curvy, interesting. And I assume they're bringing Ciri into it, and the kind of the raising of Ciri, which you see some flashes of in Witcher 3, but is a much more involved thing, and involves what's her name more, Triss. And Triss knows Yennefer, and in the books Triss is kind of interested in Geralt, but Geralt is very much Yennefer's, and like there's sort of and so that's why there's so much consternation in the games, that as soon as Yennefer was out of the picture and Geralt didn't remember her anymore, Triss moved in on Geralt, and so that's why there's some friction between her and Yennefer in Witcher 3. which you don't really get.
It's
very subtext, but like you kind of pick up on it, but like you don't really know why, and it's because they were sort of a family. Like her and Yennefer and Geralt and Ciri kind of were a family, like a surrogate family sort of thing, and she saw Triss as sort of breaking that up,
moving in.
Like, which is just a context you don't get if you don't know the book, which I didn't when I first played the games until I went back and read them when they were in English.
Oh,
and
wait
I could
a
read
minute,
them.
now that makes sense.
So this could be a very helpful companion to the games, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with the games. I think that's actually a separate license.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see what they do with it.
I think it looks
hot. I mean, I'm definitely on board. The only comparable thing would maybe be Mortal Kombat, but Mortal Kombat is drawing from much cheaper, schlockier material, arguably.
Yep.
Depending on how you feel about the Witcher books.
Here's a question from Vincent. Of today's reviews, which is more surprising to you, the super low ones for Youngblood or the extremely high ones for Fire Emblem? I didn't even know that there were sky-high reviews for Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I think it's at like an 87 or an 88 right now.
Wow.
On my team.
Oh, it's over, dude. I think I had Youngblood.
Did you?
I think so.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, my team's done. My team was done at E3 when I lost those 2 games.
I can't believe I survived Anthem bombing.
I know. Well, it looks apparently Vincent is saying that Youngblood is at like a 6.
That's weird. I mean, the Youngblood.
So anyway, to answer your question,
not that I played.
Youngblood,
Yeah, not that I played Youngblood, but getting scores that low surprises me because it's
from the same team that made Wolfenstein.
Yeah, it seems like just the same thing but more. Which
I read one review today, and I'm not gonna go there. It's not worth it. Yes, I'm more surprised at Wolfenstein. Fire Emblem always gets high reviews. Did I have Fire Emblem on my team last year?
I don't remember.
I don't either. I thought I did. Next, Veritas, congrats on the new studio. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Is Thursday the new day for GameFace? So we're getting that sorted right now. So we have Jared, who's our new TriCaster operator, but he is a busy guy, and he does a bunch of other stuff. So we'd like to lock it down to a single day, so we actually are going to have at least one other TriCaster operator who can fill in when Jared can't do the show. So I honestly don't want to do Thursdays because I don't know if you noticed or not, but in this area, Thursdays is the no parking day.
Yeah.
So it's like street cleaning all around. I had to park like 3 blocks away and like carry all my stuff in. So I would prefer to do it on Tuesday. I think Jared said he would prefer Tuesday. If Matt's cool with that, we'll probably eventually get back to Tuesday.
Tuesday should be fine.
Okay. But that's what we'd like to do. Obviously, it's release day for all the games every week, and it just kind of works out well. So that's the plan.
Well, it used to be. Now games seem to come out on Friday.
No, you're right. A lot of the big ones come out on Fridays for sure. So that's the plan. We'd like to get to Tuesday, but look, we're flying by the seat of our pants right now. Like, we barely got all this stuff set up in time for the show today. Jared has done an amazing job, by the way. Let's give Jared a round of applause for his first GameFace episode. There he is, raising his hand. He did great. Like, we have the monitor right here. He's done an amazing job. You guys have been watching the show. I'm sure you've picked up on it as well. So we want to work with Jared as much as possible, so we're trying to pick a day that we can make sure we can get him in here as often as possible. So we'll see. Follow us on Twitter. We announce everything on Twitter. Also, there's a GameFace thread on Sifted where we post everything about GameFace. So jump on that thread and click at the top. Follow that thread. Every time I post in there telling you like when the show's going live and things like that, or when the archive is posted, you'll get a notification on Sifted. So jump in there and you'll stay in the loop. But just following us on Twitter should be good enough, as we announce everything on there as well. What else? Justin Horman with Sam Lake saying they want to make Alan Wake 2. Do you think they could actually find someone to pay them to make it?
Not so far. I mean, I don't.
THQ Nordic. They'll pay for anything.
It's true.
I feel like THQ Nordic is just funded by like Russian mob money or something.
No, it's funded by some really rich dude who just loves games.
Really?
Basically. That's what I heard. Yeah.
I mean, it's just insane what they're doing.
Like, they're backed by some like European billionaire or something.
It's really bizarre because, I mean, first of all, THQ was never that big to begin with, and then to pick up the corpse of THQ and invest all this.
Well, it was Nordic Games, like that's what it
right.
used to be. And
so wait, is it just the owner of Nordic Games?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's just been wealthy all along, and
I think so. Yeah.
he
And
decided
bought
I'm gonna die, so I might as well just.
I don't think he's very old.
Oh, really?
I think it's fine.
Oh. So, yeah, I think THQ Nordic would be a great...
So I don't know what they're after, but I mean, man, they just updated Titan Quest again yesterday.
Yeah.
The day before.
It's really bizarre.
A bunch of bug fixes and stuff. I'm just like, God, these guys are... You're waiting for them to, like, make the move, and I'm like, I don't know what the move is, but it's not happened yet, I guess? I don't know. Like, what's going on? Darksiders 3 can't be the move.
You would
this,
think...
like, weird Darksiders top-down thing can't be the move. Like, what's going on?
I don't know.
It's just waiting for the other shoe to drop on that.
It's crazy how they're spending money at THQ Nordic. That guy's going to lose all his fortune if he doesn't watch it. Let's see. Oh, Ian McGar, did you guys order your gamer girl bathwater?
Nah.
No, but if you go to the Sifted merch store right now, there are jars of Shane's bathwater, and I'm selling them for half the price, $15. That's all.
It's not worth anything if they don't see you bathe in it.
Yeah, I mean... Well, I could put a photo on Instagram. I'll make sure that I filter the water through a sieve before I send it out to you guys, just to make sure that there's nothing in there that you don't want, so you just get the bath water.
No, I think you're missing the point.
They want the stuff that I get it. I get it. It's gross, but I get it. Let's see. What else we got? Freeze frame rate with Cuphead going to Netflix. What game property should get its own TV show? Kind of running out of options at this point because they're all getting TV shows.
Yeah, they're all kind of happening.
I mean, Uncharted is obvious. I mean, it's kind of a TV show already.
Yeah. I don't know about TV show, but like I've always wanted to see a big budget Metroid movie.
That is probably Zelda would probably.
You know what I would want to make if you're talking about TV shows? I would make a Shadow of the Colossus TV show with almost no dialogue.
And each episode is one Colossus.
One episode per Colossus.
Yeah.
And like
I would watch that.
The only dialogue would be like the occasional cutaways to the shaman guys like chasing him and talking about catching up to him. But the rest would basically be him like alone with the horse tracking these things and sometimes talking to him. So like it would be like a 16 episode tone poem. Like no one would watch it, but I would absolutely make that series.
Oh man, Life is Strange.
Yeah,
I mean, if you think about,
not a bad idea.
You think of any episodic game, they would probably all work.
That if they ever finish it, Kentucky Route Zero would be a very Twin Peaks.
Maybe they should finish it on television because obviously it can't finish.
Well,
you
remember it was supposed to come to consoles this year, like with the final episode. Like that was their whole thing. Was like console edition was supposed to complete it with episode 5, and then that episode 5 would come out on PC.
Yeah.
I have had that game in my Steam library for 6 years.
Yeah.
At
they
least.
put out an episode last year, right?
Yeah, maybe. Was it last year or the year before?
Or maybe the year before.
It's been a long time.
At least a year.
Since episode 4.
At least a year.
But that thing would be a very interesting TV series if they ever finish it.
Yep. Wolfox 10 JC with the new studio. Matt, Phantasy Star Online Day 1 stream.
Probably not. Like I don't see myself really jumping into that too much.
Oh, that's another thing. We're going to be streaming a whole lot more. So in the other room where Jared is running the TriCaster, we have like a separate...
I think that is irrevocably the shower now.
Yeah,
like
the shower.
I think they've
in the shower.
They've picked the name for it and it's over.
Yeah, our shower doubles as a streaming room for game streaming, and it's not set up yet. Again, like we are flying by the seat of our pants here. The glue on this stuff is probably still wet. So if a panel falls and like hits me, you'll know why. Like we literally just got it in under the gun because we wanted to get a show to you guys. So there's a lot of work left to do still in the other room. There's still a lot of work to do here. We have a lot of capabilities to do some really cool stuff with our TriCaster, and we're going to do it. But we just wanted to get a show out to you guys as quickly as possible. So look for lots of changes, lots of game streaming. Streaming, we probably will move it to a weeknight because we're going to do today's high score on Saturdays because we need people to call in and we have to have people from Europe and the US, which means we need to do it at like noon or 1-ish. So we're not going to be doing Saturday socials on Saturday, and I need Sundays off, people. I need at least one day a week off. So we'll probably move game streaming to some night during the week. Feel free to give us feedback on what day you would prefer that to be. Here's a bunch of questions down here. Well, now they're going at us to just make comments. Here's one. That... I can't see it. It's light green on white. I can never read it. That's something, dude. Do you think live demos for E3 is an outdated idea? I'd imagine devs will be happy to not split development time. I've seen a lot of this over the last month since E3 ended. I saw a lot of discussion on Twitter over whether Sony leaving E3 and not attending E3 this year ended up hurting them or not. Mm-hmm. I think the vast majority of gamers think it didn't hurt Sony at all. But then I think the vast majority of people who were saying things like that were Sony fanboys, and they're never going to admit that Sony ever did anything wrong. So
I don't think it hurt them at all.
You really don't? I do.
I mean,
I absolutely do.
Not at all. Not in any way whatsoever.
The average
because
person,
you know what? Death Stranding and Last of Us 2 are going to sell exactly what they would have sold otherwise.
I don't know how you know that.
Because I'm expecting.
Because you're guessing.
Why wouldn't they?
Why would they? If more people hear about it, why wouldn't more people buy it?
Because more people hear about it from television advertising. E3, it doesn't
matter.
But
that advertising is going to be the same no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the coverage at E3 isn't the same.
Who pays attention to E3 doesn't know about Death Stranding?
Who pays? Wait, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the mainstream outlets running stuff about E3, reaching people who don't follow E3.
They don't reach anyone that the NFL advertising won't reach.
I'll guarantee you, more people right now know that there's another Xbox coming next year than know that there's another PlayStation coming next year.
That might be, but they'll know the same thing when Sony comes back to E3 next year.
I don't necessarily believe that. So we'll see.
It's not going to hurt them at all.
I mean, they're still going to sell tons of them, obviously. But I do not believe that E3 has no value. I'll never believe that. Do you think that the live demo, though, at E3 is outdated? Because we didn't get many.
I don't think it's outdated. I think it's out of vogue because people ripped live demo stuff to shreds.
It's your
all the
own
time.
fault.
Yeah, basically. I mean,
it's your fault. You made your bed, now you can lie in it. You rip people for bugs and problems in live demos.
This is the natural outcome of Puddlegate.
Yeah,
basically.
This is what happens. If you want to shame a game for a bug or something that happens on a stage show, and you go on Twitter and you go after the developers and you go after the publisher, this is what happens. They take it away. So maybe next time you'll think a little more before you go and flap your gums off on social media and ruin it for everybody else.
I mean, you'll probably see
rant over.
You'll see some stuff like that next year because they're going to want to show off what things look like on the new hardware. But yeah, this year they decided, well, there's no upside to it.
Yep.
And hard to blame them.
I think there was upside, but that's a whole other discussion.
Theoretical, but it's like, from a PR perspective, what do you have to deal with more? Like the few people that had a positive impression and never say anything about it online, or the people that are complaining that your puddles aren't reflective as they were 6 months ago?
Yep.
I get it.
Oh, I totally get it. Absolutely. Ian McGar, Shane, have you played either of the new skateboarding games? Didn't you say you skated? I did skate. I skated for 12 years, hardcore, all day, every day, for over a decade. I've not played either of the upcoming skateboard games. Both of them do not look encouraging to me, to be perfectly honest with you. I can't even remember what the one is called for PC.
I don't know.
They both look like indie budget janky games to me.
The wait for Skate 4 continues.
Yeah. I just watched an interview with Tony Hawk last night as I was dozing off on the couch before I fell asleep, where he was talking about he's working on a new mobile Tony Hawk game. And he discussed the whole thing with skateboarding. And he says he feels that Skate killed skateboarding games because, and he's not in a vindictive way. He said that, for a long time we had the market to ourselves. And he's like, and look, I'll be honest, I made a lot of money and that's great. He said then Skate came out. And he said Skate didn't grow the potential audience for skateboarding games. It just split it in half so that neither one of them could succeed. And so therefore both of the franchises died. And he says he is still shopping around trying to get a skateboard game on consoles. But he said that he's not allowed to do a game called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and because their contract is expired, neither is Activision. So it's dead. He said it's like the weirdest thing. He said after they realized what happened, he went to his lawyer. He's like, how could this be? He's like, it just worked out that way. Like, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater's done.
Wow.
Unless Activision
Time for
decides...
Tony Hawk's Expert Skater.
No, it's called something like that. Yeah. And so there's a mobile game on the way, and I will check that out. He says that it doesn't sacrifice much from the console games. I don't believe that, but we'll see. It sounds like it's going to be free to play, which means, of course, I'm going to give it a try. But
it is an interesting idea that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was a particular kind of game. Skate was a very different kind of game, and you basically had people who played skateboarding games who wanted wanted the other.
Yep.
And you didn't bring anybody else who was. I didn't bring me in.
Nope. I mean, they lost the casuals with Tony Hawk at Tony Hawk 3.
That's when I checked out.
I mean,
much.
honestly, yeah. Once the revert and the manual came in, it got too complicated, and the casual fans bailed. And all that was left were people like me, people who love to skate and love skateboarding, and we're not enough to support a franchise that costs $100 million to make each entry. So unfortunately, it looks like we're in the black hole of skateboarding. I hope one of those two indie games is great. I really do. I've seen gameplay of both of them, and it was not encouraging.
I was just stunned when they remade Tony Hawk 1 and couldn't even get that right.
Yeah, that's... Maybe we don't want them to make more Tony Hawk games. Next is 8 Batty. Who's the guy in the back window? You must have missed the opening of the show. That's Jared, our TriCaster operator, or somebody that we're holding hostage.
Mm-hmm. That's the shower. That's the shower where you get the bath water from.
He has one hand free. We only tied one hand to the desk, so we're not that bad. Joaquin Dragoon, any game you would want a remake of? Mine is Soul Reaver.
Well, I would have said ActRaiser, but that ship has sailed. I would like to see a remake or a remaster of Dragon Force from the Saturn. I bought a fully refurbished Saturn off eBay a while ago and started replaying Dragon Age, and that game is still awesome. And I would love to play it with graphics that don't make my plasma scream at me.
Yeah,
because it's blowing up 32-bit stuff to. Because I don't have an S video in on that TV, so it's just going through.
No
composite.
TVs have S videos in anymore.
It's just going through composite out of the Saturn. It's at 340i or something. It's horrifying.
It's
but
like
it's still
S video
a great,
never even
great
existed.
Game.
It's
a
like
great,
it just
great game.
never existed. S video.
See,
I loved it. I had S video cables for all my consoles. It made a world of difference.
Same. But doesn't not a thing.
Not anymore.
But I would love to play an updated Dragon Force that looks good, and it otherwise is exactly the same. Don't mess with it. Don't do it. Don't do SolSeraph again.
Tribes next.
Yeah.
Commander Fett 03. Are you going to be live streaming Saturday hangouts in the new studio? I kind of went over this already. Saturdays are going to be for today's high score, so our call-in show. So all y'all, get yourself a crappy webcam. Make sure you download Skype and add Sifted Games, because we're going to need you guys to make the show work. We have to have people call in, and it really sucks because we had finally... The first episode was really rough. It was me talking the whole time and a few calls, and every week it got better and better until, like I said, the last episode, it was just wall-to-wall calls, and then we lost the studio. I worked so hard on that show to build it up to where it was, and then it went away. So... I have a feeling we're going to have to start over again, probably. The first episode, I'm going to be talking most of the time, and we'll get a couple calls. As people start to remember, it's every Saturday. They'll start showing up, and it'll start getting back to where it was. So Saturdays will not be game streaming. We're going to find a day during the week to do that. Saturdays are going to be for 2 days high score. Let's see. One more. I don't even know what that one is. What's this mean? Andres Sapowski is finally getting that paycheck that he passed up on all those years ago.
That's the guy who wrote The Witcher.
Oh.
So he's after taking that.
You're right. That's awesome.
The bad deal when he sold the game rights for $100,000 or something and getting nothing else.
Oh, Vincent says Metacritic's for Youngblood 77, Fire Emblem 88. So Youngblood isn't getting beat up that bad.
No.
That's in the realm of
for some reason. People are surprised Fire Emblem is rating that high, which surprises me because I'm the Fire Emblem always rates that pretty high. And this one looks good, so why would it not rate high?
I don't know.
That's why I picked it.
Yeah. Here's the last question. Second from Justin Horman. We'll let you double dip tonight. Or today, actually. I'm so used to recording this show at night. Do you think it's incredibly bad timing for GTA's casino to launch with everyone looking at gambling in video games right now?
I mean, sort of, but it's like everyone in the industry is sort of like, I don't know if these real money mechanics in games could be considered gambling, and Rockstar's like, fuck the police. It's like it's Rockstar doesn't care. Like they know, they know it's just going to be more money for them. Hell, they'll probably invite the controversy if it centers on them. It's just more publicity for them. I mean, I know there's like the countries with stricter gambling laws. You can just walk into a casino and not do anything. You can't go to play anything because it's gambling there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of there's going to be an argument about it legally in a lot of different countries that I think is going to center around the loophole that a lot of the definitions of gambling, if you can't cash out, it doesn't count as gambling, and obviously Rockstar will not give you your money back if you make more money in the casino. So by that standard, apparently it's not gambling, but I feel like you throw, hey, this game that has real money transactions where you literally buy poker chips to play in a virtual casino building in the game might make a few amendments happen, but we'll have to. That's going to be a slow legal process, but I think you'll see it start to happen now. Because it's just right in the middle of it. But, like, Rockstar love to be right in the middle of stuff like that, so.
Yep. Before we go, I want to specifically thank our sponsor, DeShazer Ryan Realty, because they had initially sponsored GameFace for right after E3. And then Sam left, and the rest is history. They were very patient with us and waited for us to launch our new studio. So I want to thank them very much and run their ad once again. Feeling the urge to get away from it all, permanently or for months at a time? Immerse yourself in the best Montana has to offer on 320 acres of remote, heavily forested property. Gaze at your own private lake from the deck of the log cabin. Truly off the grid, soak in a custom wood fire heated hot tub surrounded by wilderness and wildlife. Visit www.lostlakemontana.com for more detailed information and images. You can also contact Doug DeShazer today at deshazermt@gmail.com or 406-291-1643. That's deshazermt@gmail.com or 406-291-1643. All right, so that's it. GameFace episode 174 in the books. Everything went off pretty good.
Yeah.
How do you like the new setup with the mics and headphones?
It's all right. I got to learn not to whack the mic with my hand when I move my hands around. I'm used to doing gestures.
I like being able to hear us because it makes the audio better, not just because we have better mics and things like that, but you know when you're not close to the mic because you can hear it. And so you just subconsciously move into the mic to make sure.
I've also learned that I smack my lips too much when I talk, so I keep starting sentences like this. So I got to stop doing that. So if that annoys anybody, that's going to go away, I promise, because I can hear it now.
It is very crystal clear, the audio. Like, I can hear every little enunciation in these. So hopefully you guys liked it as well. Hopefully you liked our new studio. You're going to be seeing more of it as we game stream and we get into the other room. But thank you guys as well for your patience. I really appreciate it. I know it's tough when you're paying for content on a monthly basis and the content isn't coming as frequently as you would like. I did the best I could. I've literally busted my ass for the last month hauling all this stuff up in here. It's been crazy. But trust me when I said I have been going after it, trying to get this up as quickly as possible. So thank you, all our patrons, all our subscribers for being patient. As it said on the lower third earlier, it is the dawn of a new day on Sifted, and I just want to thank you guys for helping us get to this point where we could have a new dawn.
New day?
In the first place. So, hope you guys have liked the changes to GameFace. Hope you guys like the studio. I'm pretty happy with it. When I had the idea for it, I didn't think it would turn out this good. So, I'm pleasantly surprised by how the studio has turned out. And so thank you guys on the stream. Watch this weekend. I will be on the Sifted Community Podcast, The Beer Umverit, where I will share my 5 or 6 favorite beers and when and why I like to drink them, in addition to talking about games. So that should probably be on the site late Saturday, early Sunday. Look out for that. Pactor Factor's rolling. Everything's just going to start rolling out again now that we finally have our space. So thank you guys for everything. Thanks for watching. GameFace is up and out.